Good evening, good evening, good evening to everybody. We'll give a couple more minutes. So we can get everybody on. Hope y'all having a good Sunday evening. Hope you're enjoying your Sunday a little bit better than I am. I always take me a good 24 hours after a good butt whooping. But much respect. So y'all come on in. Hopefully we got a good little talk tonight, Wanna definitely go over a few things. I should be better at accepting by now.
Checking in, man. Checking in. What's up, SIAC family?
What's going on, Coach Thomas?
Nothing much, man. Nothing much. Having a little bit of connection issues.
All right. We'll work through it. Man, we got the man himself, his father. I believe that's his father. His son had a day yesterday, and I definitely want him to come up and talk with us tonight if he wants to. I see we got one of the Benedict coaches in. Congratulations to you all on what y'all did. Total dominance. Total dominance in the conference.
We got Benedict starting center in the space tonight.
Man, that's what's up. Cause them boys had a day yesterday. Yes, they did. On both sides of the ball. Benedict dominated in the trenches, and just much respect to those guys and Coach Bear and just what they've what they've done. I had a few people hit me my inbox about saying was I okay about players. I was like, no, man, I don't. This is football. This is what this is about. Like, of course, I'm gonna ride with Ski, and when they go out and dominate like that, you show those guys respect for what they're doing. I also want to put that out there. Support them. Don't just like their tweets, retweet them. Support. It takes money, and it takes resources to have winning programs. And being with Ski for so long, I've seen the highs and I've seen the lows. And people who follow Benedict, they've seen the lows, and now you're on that high, and you want to continue that and continue that culture. I really enjoyed being in Columbia, man. I hadn't been to Benedict since I want to say 2010. So, man, really enjoyed it. Good atmosphere. I was a little disappointed in Skeegan Nation. They didn't travel like they should have, and they really hadn't traveled like they normally travel all year. Maybe a little leftover from homecoming, but that's a discussion for another day, man. So,
I was a little disappointed in Tuskegee band, man. They waited till they was down about 30 points to play ball and parlay, man. That's the one thing I wanted to hear, man. They should have played it early in the game, man. Y'all fans weren't even locked in on that, man.
so I have a full blown rant to go off about what I saw from Tuskegee, not from the football perspective, but just from a fan perspective. And this has something that's been going on pretty much all season. The band was kind of mute. It was just one of those weird feeling games. And it's some things that I almost at one point I was kind of curious if they even wanted to be there. Of course, they didn't perform. Um, so I was slightly disappointed in that. But what's up, Coach Mitch? How you doing?
No. That's the starting center.
Oh, that's the center. You know what? I've always thought that. Okay, I'm getting him confused with somebody else. I had to look at it.
Yes, sir. How you doing though?
Man, I am doing wonderful, man. How about you?
I'm living. I'm just taking it all in.
Man, well, congratulations first and foremost
Yeah, appreciate that.
on that undefeated season and the SIAC championship, a first week bye
Yes, sir.
in the playoffs. Like it don't get no better than that. And I'm here to tell you, I've been around SIAC football a long time, and the quality that I saw from Benedict, y'all have more than a shot. I don't put y'all as the underdog against nobody. I don't care who y'all run up against. Um, the way that the way that y'all fight through is unparalleled, man. So much success, and just go ahead and talk to us about how you feel about this season and the accomplishments so far.
Yeah,
Wait,
absolutely.
hold on. Before we get into that, Big Miss, hey, talk to
Yeah.
us about your journey. How did you end up at Benedict? I'm a former football player at Benedict.
Yes, sir.
I'm an alumni. So talk about your journey, man. How you end up at Benedict?
No, yeah, absolutely. It's number one. It's been a long road, man. A lot of people don't know this, but so I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. And out of high school, I actually went D2 to a school up in West Virginia called Wheeling University. They're in the MEC. Notre Dame is their like representation. They're in the playoffs this upcoming year. I went to Wheeling, and when I came back from my spring break, my freshman year, the school had went into financial exigency, and they were going to shut down. So coach just said, "Go ahead and enter the portal." I did what I did, made my highlight tape for my freshman year because I was a true freshman starter, had a good year. And I landed, a couple offers here and there, but I decided to go to Presbyterian College in Clinton, South Carolina. Went there. They were a member of the Big South Conference. I had a good year there. I played all 5 positions on the line, center, guard, and tackle. And then when I came back from Christmas break, they made the announcement that they were going into the Pioneer Football League, which is a non-scholarship conference in the FCS. So, man, I'm just sitting there, and they were only going to honor scholarships for the upcoming seniors their last year. So I just couldn't do it, man. I'm not paying for school. I just worked too hard. So I went in the portal again, and thank the Lord, Coach O'Daffer, he reached out to me, our defense coordinator.
Coach, he from Polk County, baby.
He is. Yeah, that's my guy, man. He reached out. He liked what he saw in me. He shared the film with Coach Barry and Coach Mack, who was the offensive line coach at the time. Coach Barry's pedigree in offensive line play is unreal. So whenever they reached out to me and gave me the opportunity, I couldn't pass it up. I love what I saw, what they were doing with the program, because my first year at Benedict was their first year, that coaching staff. They came in during the COVID season. So I transferred there, went through the whole COVID year, was there last year, and here this year.
Okay, good, man. That's good to hear, man. I see this way. I'm glad that they extended that offer to you, man. Because
Yeah, absolutely.
definitely, you one of the main key pieces of the fist, man. You the leader of the fist. Talk about your leadership role with the fist.
Yes, sir.
What does
Yeah, I
that
got you.
consist of?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was blessed, like I said, with the opportunity to come to Benedict. And whenever I got there, at Benedict, we have a leadership council. It's 10 people just across the team they pick. In the last couple of years, I was named the leadership council, one of the leaders of the offensive line. And I just saw something special in the team and the unit. So like I said, I saw something special in the team, and I knew that we were going to do big things. So last year, obviously, wasn't the year we wanted to have. And a lot of that came down to the offensive line play. We didn't have the best year up front. So, we had to make some changes. We had to get stuff going. The coaches did a great job. They went out and recruited great players, like you guys were saying. A couple weeks ago, I heard y'all talking about how, we have those grad transfer guys and everything that really came in and played a big part in the success we've had up front this year. So they went out and put some pieces around me that I'm very blessed to have. My left tackle, he's a transfer. He played at UNC. And my left guard, he's a true freshman, Roger Smith. Y'all gonna hear his name a lot in the next couple of years. And then my right guard, my right tackle, Henry Mitchell and Maurice Campbell. They came in with a winning mindset. They said, we're gonna go do this thing, and that's what I came to Benedict to do. So it was easy to get on that train. And from day one, we just meshed real well. Started calling ourselves the Fist, and we just went with it.
Man, that's amazing, man. So like yesterday, I was sitting in the stands with some of the guys I played football with, and we was looking at Big 77, and we was like, man, like where they get these cats from, man?
Yeah. He was a big dude, man. So he played under Coach Barry at Southern. and he grad transferred from Southern University. So he had a good relationship with Coach Berry, and obviously being under Coach Berry from prior 4 years, he had that talent, the working skill set to come in and make the offensive line better.
Yeah, man, that's big time, man. That's big time. All right, man. Give us your thoughts on, yesterday. Obviously, the QB had a big day, as expected.
Yes, sir.
But give us your thoughts on yesterday's game as far as, your responsibility and the things that things that you needed to do to make sure that you guys secured that victory.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yesterday was just absolutely surreal. I've never won a championship in college, and just being in that position is crazy. All day, man, I just try to keep a level head. Can't get too high, can't get too low. I'll try not to be on my phone. I got family calling, trying to get tickets going and stuff like that, getting the game. But we just knew up front that we had to have a good day, man. We have a very dynamic, explosive offense that's two-sided. We can run and throw the ball. So we knew that to establish the run game early would be huge to set up success for Eric. Like you said, Eric had an amazing day. That's my guy. I love that kid, and he's got such a bright future. It's insane. But, yeah, it was surreal. Like I said, we knew what we had to do up front to get the game going, and we just wanted to dominate and come out and punch them in the mouth. I have some friends over at Tuskegee, so you're just talking to them all week, getting prepared. It's crazy, but all of it comes from confidence. Being in that moment, knowing you're not going to be perfect in those moments, but as long as you're not afraid of those moments, it's going to be all right, and that's what it was.
Yeah, man, that's definitely good to see. D2, you got any questions? HBCU, you got any questions?
What's going on? What's going on? First, Coach, congratulations on your win, dominant win.
That's the starting center. Starting center. I know his header got y'all confused. Starting center.
My bad. But starting center. Man, listen, first and foremost, as a player, just congratulations, just everything that you all have accomplished. So I really just want to ask you this, how did it feel coming into the season? Because, you all made history. And one thing that I was saying on my personal page, and what I'm going to be saying all week, is that I honestly think you all are like the best SIAC team, like one of the best SIAC teams in history. So did you all know you all were going to do this, or did you all just sort of figure that out as you all were winning during the season?
I'm a firm believer in everything happening for a reason. So last year it was our goal to make it to the championship, go to the championship. That didn't happen. We went 5-5. But I knew that the work that we were about to put in, we have amazing facilities at Benedict. They finished the weight room. They got us a strength and conditioning coach. I knew that the guys on the team were the foundation. And I knew that with that solid foundation, whatever pieces they brought into the puzzle, we were going to make it work. I had messages that I was looking at earlier today from November 26, 2021, saying that we will be the 2022 SIAC champions. And last thing, or early in the year, Coach Berry came out with his hashtag. So late last year, early this year, 111222, November 12th, 2022. That was our thing. That's the whole goal. And the mindsets that we just had going into the off season through spring, it was so professional that it was kind of like written. Like we knew that it was going to happen. We just had to go out and do it. It was guys' work, or it was guys' plan, and we put in the work to go do it.
Honestly, love to hear that, because I love that level of dedication and really just the culture that it seems as if Coach Berry really instilled within the locker room. So I want to ask you about just Coach Berry, how do you believe that, his leadership, really helped you all in fulfilling this? Because, just the whole entire year, pay the fee, 1-0, even as a Fort Valley alum, I started to believe, and I really saw, what you all accomplished, and I was rooting for you all. So what do you think Coach Berry really instilled in the team to take you all to get this far?
Man, Coach Berry, the moment Coach Berry called me when he was recruiting me was a moment that I knew that I wanted to play for that guy. He's so electric in just everything that he does. There will never be a day that goes by that he's not bringing the absolute highest level of energy. And Coach Berry brings that energy and professionalism to work every day. 5:30 when I get up, 6 o'clock when we get the meetings, he comes in there ready to go, hype as all be. He brings that in, professionalism, and then Coach Berry
gospel music. Let's talk about the gospel music.
Man. Coach
What
Berry,
effect does that have on you walking in the building every morning, man?
Look,
5 a.m.
Yeah, 5 a.m. Man, you go in the locker room, you go in the meeting room, gospel's playing because we're a God fearing team. Coach Berry's a God fearing man. He really is. His Coach Berry's thing is he wants to save souls and change lives, and he's done that tenfold at Benedict. And that gospel music, man, it just puts it on your heart, puts it on your mind, puts it on your soul. It's just food for the soul that we go in there every day.
Benedict, the institution was built off of the faith. You know that, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it all goes together, man.
Yep.
It's a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. And to God be the glory, because this season was great. And like I said, Coach Berry just brings that energy, professionalism, God-fearing man, everything he does. And like I said, he comes from a winning pedigree as well. Coach Berry's been in these situations a lot of times. So he knows how to run the program and being at the forefront, showing us how to lead. It's amazing.
Okay, man, that's good, man. Shout out to Coach Berry, man. Coach SIAC Coach of the Year. Now, let me ask you a question. Now, you guys, I know at some point during practice, y'all have one-on-one period.
Yes, sir.
Lubert and Nellis, can any of y'all block him?
We're the best offensive line in the SIAC.
Great answer.
That's all I'm going to say.
That's a great answer.
Well, he the best defensive player in the SIAC. So, I mean, hey, it's only fitting, man. I can definitely see it. I feel like them competition periods is electric.
The good thing about having those guys, because Lubert obviously is a great player, defense player of the year in the SIAC, but that whole defensive front, man, if it wasn't for them in camp, they got us ready and we got them ready. Seeing them every day is great because every day we start with competition period ones-on-one. So seeing those boys up front that have been making teams hard to run the ball and getting quarterbacks on the ground that's also a blessing, because if we're going up against the best defense line in the SIC, then that's only going to prepare us for what we're going to see on Saturdays.
Yeah, you're right about that. Hey, D2, just take a quick break, D2. And HBCU. Yesterday we also had another game. Yesterday. Allen University played Edward Waters in the AME Classic. Any thoughts on that game?
So I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't get a chance to watch it, and I love being prepared. So I'll tell you the reason why I didn't watch it. The reason why I didn't watch it is because I was so upset that I was not able to watch the Tuskegee Benedict game until the fourth quarter, because ESPN and the production company, whoever, did not have it up. ESPNU did air the game. I have it recorded. Hopefully, they'll air it again, and maybe, down the line I'll post it on Pulse. But I saw the ending when they won, and what I'll say is that Edward Waters is coming. I honestly think that Edward Waters is going to be a force to be reckoned with within the next few years. We had the coach in the space. They're in Florida. As you know, Coach Thomas, there's a lot of amazing athletes down there. So I believe that, with a good recruiting class and then the development of the players that are there that are producers, like Edward Waters is showing me that they're going to be the team to beat. They're going to be that next team that emerges. And honestly, the SIAC East is going to be the toughest division in D2 coming up. You got Benedict, you got Fort Valley, you got Albany State, Savannah State still coming. Allen is going to grow and get better. So there's not going to be a division in Division 2 that's going to be better than that SIAC East division, honestly.
Yeah, Edward Waters, I mean, they in Jacksonville. I mean, if you look at the state of Florida, I mean, if they attack Jacksonville alone, if they do it right, man, if they can keep some of those kids home, man, they most definitely could be a power. I mean, you got Bowles, you got a couple of solid high schools up in that area, Trinity. But yeah, I didn't even check it out. I didn't look into it. I figured one of y'all may have looked into it, but I didn't.
Hey, Coach.
I was in Columbia, South Carolina yesterday, man. I wasn't stressing that.
Now I feel it. I feel it.
I really hate that Allen, they were down to like their third string quarterback, David Wright, got hurt, and that really affected them down the stretch, because Allen, they like to toss that ball around. So I look for them to keep building. They're right there at it. With Edward Waters, yeah, they're definitely up and coming, and they haven't, as you know, their president came into space last week, and basically told us that hey, he wants to win, and he finds value in athletics. So I only look for them to continue to grow, and like you said, they're in that hotbed in Florida. You look at what West Florida did a few years ago when they started their program, and look where they are. So I'm pretty sure they are looking to some of that same pattern of growing their program. But yeah, Allen was just outmanned and outmatched. Edward Waters came on really hard towards the end of the year. If I'm not mistaken, they were like a 3 or 4 game winning streak. They lost some tough ones at the beginning of the year, but props to Coach Morgan for keeping those guys and not just giving up on the season.
And another thing I'll say too is that the president said this on last week, and I want to reiterate that as that football team improves and as they continue to grow, especially in this conference, you're going to see the school grow, because I think that that's what you're going to see from Benedict with all the the attention and the media attention and the attention that comes from the playoffs. Like, you're going to see just like the institution grow from the football team and from the sports team. So I really can't wait to see what Edward Waters University, because they just became a university. Like, I can't wait to see what the football team can bring them as far as enrollment, as far as media attention. I can't wait to see 5 years from now what Edward Waters becomes.
Hey, plus, when you said about the divisions, now the commissioner has hinted to this in a couple of interviews about removing those divisions, and as it stands, well, Fort Valley messed up when they lost to Savannah State, but if they don't lose to Savannah State, that championship game would have been a rematch of Benedict in Fort Valley. And I can say now, that the top of the SIAC East was miles ahead of the top of the SIAC West. And you can say the same thing last season, that the SIAC East was miles ahead of the SIAC West, the top of the SIAC West.
Can we give a reason why that is? Because they feeding on Morehouse, CAU, and everybody else that don't want to compete. So I mean, let's give the East what they got, but let's also talk about they feed off Edward Waters, Morehouse, and Clark Atlanta. They get 3 free wins every year.
Choice, talk your talk. Hey,
wait, when you say feed, what do you mean? When you say feed, what do you mean?
Feed, they get 3 free wins. Those top teams that you just mentioned get 3 free wins every year.
I won't say that. I won't say that because Morehouse did beat Savannah State.
Let's figure this out. Morehouse sat there and languished under Freeman for how many years before he left? Hasn't won an SIAC championship since '91. CAU hasn't won one since '91, and Edward Waters is just getting in and getting their feet adjusted. Those are 3 free wins right now to anybody sits there and decides they want to start investing and putting the money down on it. That's it.
But, hey, what if those teams went over to the West? I feel like they'll be more competitive.
They get their ass whooped too.
That would be a good move for them.
Let's take a look at it. Let's take my alma mater then. We dog Edward Waters. Let's see. The last time we played Morehouse, I think we actually got in them. And I know we beat the out of Clark last year. And wait a minute, did we play them this year? So we've had 3 free wins off of them teams over the past couple of years. Those are not teams that I'm impressed with. And I'm not ready to sit there and say the SIAC East is better than the West. Yes, you got it this year. I'm not. Because you still had Tuskegee. You still had a dog fight within the West.
Well, hey, Tuskegee took 2 L's from the East.
Let me think. How many L's we take from the East this year? Hold on.
Well, Benedict came through and smacked y'all around.
1. No, don't even say smack. That was a
Fact.
freaking wet bowl that anybody could have won.
Hey,
Anybody
dog.
could have
Hey,
won that
listen,
game.
dogs gonna
That's
be
why I kind of
dogs,
want
man.
Benedict back because look, y'all got away 14-0, but how many times y'all get into 20 and we stopped y'all? And y'all didn't come away with points.
Like you said, it was a wet bowl, but I'm gonna say the dogs gonna be dogs, no matter
Hey,
what the
Okay,
weather
I'll
is.
give you this year. Come back to me next year, and then we come. And if it's the same thing, we should be coming to y'all. But
Hit it
look,
by 30 next year.
I'm not giving nobody nothing in the SIAC East
mhm.
because y'all get 3 free wins every year.
No, I like the only thing with that is that you never know what's gonna happen when you get on that field. You never know. That's the only thing because
Man,
like records don't
but let's
indicate
be
anything.
honest though. Let's be honest. How long has it been since you've had full confidence that CAU and Moore's dang, I'm about to say Moore's Brown.
Now Morris
CAU
Brown.
and Morehouse, excuse me, you are going to come in and fight somebody and try to compete week in, week out, no matter who they are playing. Because
What last year?
they get up for certain teams and they will play them hard, they still will lose. They
Now
go to
last year they had the game of the year against Albany State. They beat Morehouse. They beat Tuskegee. Like they looked like they were going to be the next premier team. So last year,
who? CAU?
no Morehouse.
I don't trust Morehouse. I can never trust Morehouse. How are you not the SIAC's top team when you got the best school in the conference and you got the biggest endowment? I went to Morehouse. I sat there, walked on there. I didn't trust it when I walked on there. I didn't trust it when my dad coached against them in the 80s. I don't trust Morehouse, period.
Man, you butt hurt.
Well, what I will say is that as a Fort Valley State University alum and a Benedict College supporter, I'm just saying, Benedict Fort Valley and all. I got to show Albany State too. On football, Albany and Fort Valley is dominated historically. I'm not gonna lie, and you know that.
And that's why I don't say the West is any different than the East because it's been the same 2-3 teams in the West since we played. Either Fort Valley, Albany State, or can somebody help me out? I don't even want to say Savannah State. I can't say Savannah State.
And think about it, Savannah State.
They've been running it for about the last 10, 15 years.
What with Savannah State? Savannah State was in the MEAC, so they don't really count. They just came back.
And that's the thing. They took themselves away from us for so long. We can't sit there and just include them in any conversation until they get themselves re-amped up because I went down to the last game of Savannah State and Lane, and I wasn't impressed. I saw the talent on Savannah State, but I'm still like, if we don't make mistakes, we beat them by 3 touchdowns.
You weren't impressed by
But
that
y'all didn't. But y'all didn't.
That's the thing. Look,
But y'all
can say everything you can say, but the problem is, if you got educated eyes, you know the difference. All my coaches know what I mean by educated eyes. Yes, you can sit there and see the game go this way, but you're like, well, dang, if that one play don't go, that one play don't go, this drive don't go, we can see another outcome. That's why I'm not giving nobody Savannah State because they will come out one drive and look beautiful, and they come out 2 drives and look terrible.
But all you need is a few successful drives because they got Fort Valley, they almost got Albany State, and then they played Benedict pretty tough. So it's like it's all about each week.
Boy, 2 pick sixes. I can't give Savannah State anything. We gave them 2 pick sixes.
All right,
2.
I feel that.
Man, they took them picks. Y'all didn't give that to them.
Bruh, took, it don't matter. They got 2 pick sixes. I don't look. You eliminate the turnovers is our game. That's why I'm not trusting Savannah State anytime soon either. There's a lot of teams in this conference I will never trust until they sit there and do it 3 straight times. It's just like in basketball. Somebody hit a 3 on you, come back and hit it again. They hit it again, come back and hit it one more time.
Well, let me ask you this. When do you trust Lane?
Oh,
every year.
every
year because hey, I'm alumni. What else I'm gonna do? I gotta trust him. But my whole thing is this: we make too many mistakes too, and trust me, I'm on our butts too. But if we're talking here, if I'm talking in this space here, I'm always going to be like, I trust Lane because I know where they at and I know what they're working with, and I know who in the world is sitting there pushing that button. I can trust them. But the whole thing is, if you're asking me who I'm going to give in the East and the West, I'm going to say the West because K-State's competitive. Central State came out and competed this year. Finally, I hope they sit there and do it more. We competed, even though we were never out of a game. Never. I didn't see us get blown out this year in it. So that was the happy thing for me. No blowouts, constantly in games.
Hey, after that Tennessee State win, I thought you guys was gonna
Man, don't
finish
mention
strong.
Tennessee State to me no more.
That was our Super Bowl game.
Look,
man.
no, that was the problem. They got too hyped for that game. I mean, look, I played in our last game in '96. We were too hyped for that game and got bombed out of it. I'm sure they got too hyped for that game. They finally won it and said, "Hey, the season's over. We done did what we needed to do." No, you got more games to go, son. We kind of want to win the rest of them.
So you weren't happy when the boys won that game?
Oh no, I was happy, but I always look. I'm a coach, and how many coaches we got in here? You get happy for 2 minutes and then you move on.
So this year, the cat from Montgomery, does he have another year, or is he done?
No, he done. This was his COVID year, I think.
Okay.
The McKenzie kid, I think he got one more year.
Okay.
I thought Hundley was done this year, but they gave him another year. I think the COVID year kicked in or something.
Okay. Well, like I've shared with you, I really thought this was Lane. If any of the teams disappointed me this season, it has been Lane.
Oh,
because I 100% coming into the season felt that Lane, that this was their opportunity because you were never going to get teams as weak as they are on the west side like they would be this year.
And us being as loaded as we were partially this year. I understand what you're saying. But the one loss that sat there and made me sit there and look and be like, was that Benedict loss? Because we couldn't move the ball. We couldn't establish any kind of running game. Defense was getting it mashed down their throat. That's when, like last year, we were getting the ball mashed down our throat. This year, it started the same way. And I'm sitting here like, okay, Benedict mashed it down our throats. K-State mashed it down our throats. Tuskegee mashed it down our throats at the end. We just didn't respond in crunch time. We did well inside that, inside the first 55 minutes. The last 5-10, that's when we lose.
And listen, I want to say something about that Lane Benedict game, and I'm gonna be done with Lane. That's the first game that kind of altered my perception of Benedict, and it kind of set me up for failure the rest of the season. Because I kept looking at that game because, of course, the feed to that game was horrible. So
yeah, we'll take the blame on that one, Lane College. They didn't have no kind of covering for the cameras. My bad, y'all.
So hold
on, D2. Quick question.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Was you out there in the rain in that game?
No.
No, not you.
Oh, me?
The Lane alumni. Was you out there in the rain?
Oh, hell no. I was down here in Snellville, Georgia working that day.
Oh, okay.
Look, I was trying to watch like everybody else and was mad as you know what? Because I know the people that do the broadcast. I could have called them and been like, hey, bro, what y'all doing? So that one, no, I wasn't out there.
Hilarious.
All right, man. Let's flip over for a second. Because I want to
D2. Hold on, real quick. We got Bluefield State head coach Tony Cox. Coach, you got anything you want to say, Coach? You want to talk about your program real quick while you're in? Are y'all joining the SIAC? Anything new?
Hey man, how you doing, man? I appreciate you guys. Allow me to get on here. And man, just like to listen in on the talk and get everything going now. We just finished year 2 we're bringing our program back. Finished 4-4, and we're waiting to get terms or get word of where we're going to be. We hopefully in the next week or so we'll hear something from the CIAA. But I just like to be around and listen to and kind of stay locked into all the HBCU football across the board. So appreciate you guys having us on, and we're just a young program. Like I said, 2 years in, got to over almost 90% of our rosters freshmen and sophomores, and got a bunch of kids out there battling week in and week out. And like I said, we were able to win 8 games in 2 years. So we're just taking it week by week, man. And now we got to hit the road like everybody else, recruiting and fundraising, and continue this thing get going and growing, and see how we can make some noise next year as well.
Congrats, Coach. Congrats.
Yeah. Congratulations.
I appreciate y'all.
Keep fighting the good fight, Coach.
That's
Hey,
the
it's
only
hard.
thing I
It's
know how to
hard
do.
starting a program. I know that much from experience.
That's all I know how to do, man. I'm a country boy from Charleston, South Carolina, that went to West Point. A lot of people told me I couldn't do that. So all I love doing the things people tell me I can't do. So that's the only way I know how to go. Appreciate y'all.
I think me and you are
we
cut from the
appreciate
same cloth.
My man.
we appreciate you, Coach, and y'all got one in, and y'all stole one against the SIAC this year. Y'all was able to go in and beat
I'm
Central
just glad
State,
they
if I'm not mistaken.
Didn't y'all get Livingston too?
No, we didn't play Livingston. We got Central State earlier. Came to our place. Allen beat the brakes off us.
Who did y'all play in the CIAA though? Did y'all play somebody?
So in the last 2 years, we played. Last year we played Elizabeth City and Johnson C. Smith, and this year we played Johnson C. Smith again, and we played Virginia State. So we finished 3-1 versus that CIAA teams.
Okay.
So,
Coach, quick question for you.
yes, sir.
I heard you say y'all are looking at going into the CIAA. Why not SIAC?
Well, really, what it was is just when we
Travel
first
costs.
got it going, when we first started, from day one, that was kind of just where we were back in the day, and that was the first one we got down the road on. So that was just the initial part of where we started going and started the process with them, and we're down the road with them on that. So that's really what it was. It was just really okay, getting this thing going. Hey, that's where we were years ago. We're only about 2.5 hours from Charlotte. So it's a real natural fit when it comes to that. But that's kind of how it was. It was really just the first one going. Let's get it going. But all said and done, we just want to be at home. We want to find a home. We want to get in a conference, so our kids can play for titles and play for championships, play for accolades, and do stuff like that. So, if something doesn't go, if they don't go, God, if they don't want to bring us in, then hey, we're open for business, man.
Well, hey, Coach, as you grow and you get to the conference, what infrastructure changes are you making in your program? Are you bringing in, different coaches, or possibly looking at upgrades within your facilities, things like that? Anything on the plan for the next 5-7 years?
Yeah, man. I mean, everything is on the table because again, we started. The only thing we had when we got here, when I got hired back in October of 20, we just had a stadium. You know what I mean? So we didn't even have dorms here for the last 40, 50 years. So we got dorms right away. I've already raised the money to get a brand new locker room built, which we're going through getting that done right now. We got our weight room set up and going like midway through. We were. Again, just for the way our guys played and battled last year, man, we were 3-1 before we had our weight room. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Yeah, so we got our weight room mid-season, and we're really proud of that. It's one of the ones that we've had some guys that coming up in other places. And like, man, this is on par, if not better, some D2 schools that have been around. So we're constantly growing to build that. So we want to get that locker room going as quickly as possible, so our guys can have that. And then our people are constantly looking to add things to kind of get this thing to the best it can possibly get. And my thing is, before coming here, I've been at nothing at FCS, FBS, and Power 5 in NFL, and so I know what right looks like, and I know what the best things you need to put out there for your athletes to be to be successful. And my thing is, our kids here at Bluefield State, and honestly, kids at Morehouse, kids at Benedict, kids at Allen, kids at Fayetteville State, kids at D2 HBCU, we deserve the exact same things, the same type of treatment as kids at the Power 5.
Hey, what's going on? This is Randall Barnes, founder of HBCU Pulse. I did a whole entire intro that did not record because I was having some technical difficulties. If you are listening live right now, I think we are running into a connection error on the space. Hopefully it does not close down. But first and foremost, thank you so much for listening. I'm monitoring it to see what's going on. But this is a great conversation. And that lane talking point, if you all were listening, because I'm on the space as well, that lane talking point was interesting. And once I think of, Clark Atlanta and Morehouse, like it's just 2-3 easy wins. I wouldn't say that because Clark Atlanta almost beat Tuskegee, who made it, to the SIAC championship. And Clark Atlanta had some competitive games against a lot of institutions this year. And then, if you look at it, man, like if you really look at it and see what's really going on for real, man, Morehouse, they were really good last year. And I thought that we were going to see Morehouse become what Benedict became. And that's something that I said on HBCU Pulse Radio. That's what I've said, in these spaces, these past few weeks that we've done these spaces. It was sort of disappointing, that Morehouse, didn't turn into, this big powerhouse, that I thought they would be. So right now what's going on is it looks as if the spaces was ended. We have it recorded. We are here. Although I was having technical difficulties, we're out here grinding, making it happen. So really quickly for you all, keep listening. We're here. Hopefully you all can hear me. Keep listening. Let me play the drop so y'all can know who y'all are listening to, because the drop didn't play at the start. So I'm about to play the drop.
You're now locked in to HBCU Pulse. We're the #1 outlet for HBCU life, talking about everything that's important to our culture, from on-campus issues to politics and what's trending on the yard. We always keep that same energy. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to HBCU Pulse Radio.
So that's what you're listening to, just in case you didn't know. That is what, you're listening to right now. But, a lot of great conversation. It looks as if, we didn't lose anything. We didn't lose a thing. Ain't nothing lost. We about to be back up in it. All right. We're about to be back. But if you are just listening, we are talking about Benedict winning the SIAC championship. We are also talking about some other amazing institutions that are in our conference. So just make sure to stay locked in for that. And I'm not sure. I'm gonna make sure I'm muted here. I want to make sure I'm not talking over the space. But we're about to get back into it. So we appreciate you for listening and tuning in. Let us know in the voting box, if you're listening to us live, if you believe that Benedict College, this ideation of Benedict College, is one of the best SIAC teams in history. I think that we have to have that conversation, because oftentimes we are biased against newer teams and we talk about style of play. We talk about athletes. But this team led by Coach Chennis Berry and Eric Phoenix and North Zaire Scotland, they're special. They're different. So I think we really have to start that conversation. And I definitely want to see what they do in the playoffs, as they possibly play against a West Georgia coming out the field, or a Wingate, or even the CIAA, because you have a Virginia Union team that's ranked high in Super Region 2 as well. And, Benedict could be playing them. So let's go on and get back into it. And we're going to get back to this space and we're going to have some more conversation.
All right. Everybody got a mic. Everybody speak. Randall, you back on, bro?
Lord have mercy. I need these 10 minutes to go by.
All right. We back. Everybody can send me a little thumbs up. Make sure y'all can hear me, because
Yeah, we back.
all right. So we was talking about Fort Valley and them being out of the playoff, one game away. They could have been in. But hey, still 100%, I'm sure the Fort Valley, fan base is really proud of what Gibbs has done in his first season there. So hold on, Randall is coming back.
Fort
What's your
Valley
thoughts
did better
about?
than I thought, really. I mean, just take a look at how their offense progressed last year versus this year. It was just night and day.
They,
They knew.
and I mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, I just came in again. But yeah, Fort Valley alum here. I was going to speak up for Fort Valley, and we are very proud of Coach Gibbs. That's one thing I can say. And I know for me as a sports fan, the type of sports fan I always want to be is that I understand that things don't happen in a day. A dynasty is not built in a day. Sometimes success ain't overnight. And the fact that you had Coach Gibbs that took the team that we had, that was a middling team in the East, and took us to where like we could have won, the side championship. We could have been in the playoffs. And we honestly really could have been in the playoffs even after the Benedict loss if we handled business against Savannah State. The
Thank you.
reason why we're not in the playoffs is our fault. Because I will go back
Yes.
to this. It goes back to one play. Because I was at the game. It was not streamed. I tried my best, y'all, to get it streamed on HBC League Pass Plus. I couldn't do it. Like, I really tried. But like we didn't go for the points. And we instead try to go for it on fourth down when we should have took the field goal. We would have made the field goal. It would have been a field goal game, 28-27. We make the field goal because Kelvin Durham and Emmanuel Wilson had no problem going down the field. We kicked the field goal. Fort Valley wins 31-28. We're in the playoffs, not Limestone. And now it's 4 HBCUs. You know what I'm saying? But we couldn't do that.
Yeah, I was reading the boards anyway. Some people kind of mad Newberry got kicked out. And I was like, "Yep, that's Fayetteville State for you."
I was sort of shocked Fayetteville State made it because, like no one really was checking for them. Like I saw HBCU Game Day's article. They didn't think they would make it. I didn't think it, and I was looking. I think Fayetteville State winning that NCAA championship is really what got them in.
Yeah, that's it. The way they played down the stretch, the way they corrected themselves after loss, that was what got them in. Plus beating a Towin team that went in and beat a VUU team that they respected and gave a 4th seed. That's exactly what happened.
Listen, we got the man himself, Stephen Gaither, in here. I know he want to talk about for the what? This is the third or fourth time that the CIAA has gotten 2 teams in, and SIAC is 1 team in. So today, hey, um, and hopefully we get that matchup, that top matchup. So we rooting for
Yes, we
Virginia
need it. We
Union.
need it.
Yeah. So go ahead. The floor is yours.
What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's doing well. Nah, man, that's nah. So here's the thing, man. I mean, as far as the CIAA, SIC, again, the reason it's called HBCU Game Day is because really, really is about all of the HBCUs, no doubt about it, and kind of mixed emotions today. As we knew, obviously Benedict, and Virginia Union were already going to be in. But you talk about Fayetteville, it's really interesting because Fayetteville's AD is actually on. So their AD is, every conference has a playoff representative, and their AD just happens to be the CIAA's playoff representative. It just kind of happened to fall that way. I don't know who the SIC's is this year. I don't know if anybody knows that or can find that out who it is, but he was their representative. But I talked to him yesterday after the game, and obviously he was he was excited about it. But I was like, I know you're on the playoff committee. Um, how do you feel like you guys' chances are? And to be honest with you, he didn't sound to me, just from he didn't sound too optimistic, and I don't know if it was maybe I don't know that he was hiding his hand or anything. Is I just maybe he just didn't want to get his hopes up too high.
Coach speak, maybe.
No, it's the AD. You know what I mean? And I said, again, it was one of those situations where I was like, just between you and me, I'm not going to publish what you say, but just, how do you feel? And I didn't even know if, so I think to a man, he as well as Coach Hayes, I asked Coach Hayes about it as well, and Coach Hayes, he had the same kind of thing. It was like I think there was such a high for them getting that CIAA championship, and because they knew the strength of schedule for the CIAA is not what it needs to be, especially for them being in the Southern Division. I think that maybe they just, I didn't get the feeling they really felt like it was possible, or at least they weren't counting on it. So, when the seedings came out today, I think it was definitely, uh, like I said, it just, again, the tone that they had, I really didn't feel like they really felt like they were solidly in at all. So, I hate to see them knock out Fort Valley State. I think that's been a great story all season. I really like what they've done. They took a chance hiring, they took a chance hiring, Coach Gibbs, who, he was, a star running back in the CIAA for Central back in the '90s. But he's been with Coach Broadway and those guys when Coach Broadway was at Central. Then he went to Grambling, and then he went to A&T. And we know, if you know anything about A&T, every year they have had great running backs. And he's been the running back coach. Obviously Tariq Cohen, but I mean they led the MEAC in rushing every year. Their leading rusher from like 2012 until like maybe last year was from the MEAC, was from A&T. So but Coach Gibbs was a guy who had only been a position coach. He'd never been a coordinator. I mean, he's very well respected, and I happen to know he was in the running for several jobs, including Winston-Salem State, and I thought he would have been a great candidate there. They chose to go in another direction. And so, it looked like he was going to have to wait another year. But lo and behold, you talk about the CIAA SIAC connection, Coach Flowers decides to go, Johnson C. Smith decides that they're going to part ways with the first head coach I ever covered, Coach Kermit Blunt, who was a legend at WSSU, but wasn't able to get things turned around in Johnson C. Smith. And I mean, hey, he might have to have 12 disciples and turn loaves into fishes to get things turned around at Johnson C. Smith, because that's
Yeah, that's a hard one.
that is a hard one. But anyway, Coach Flowers took that job, after he had been building at Fort Valley State, and so they brought
Ooh,
in Coach Gibbs late in the year in April, and again, he's a guy who has never been a head coach, but anybody you talk to would know that he knew that he was going to be successful. But I mean, if you look at this year right here, I mean, he was one play, whether or not, however you feel about that play at Savannah State, from being 9-1 in his first year and being in the playoffs. So, nah, man, I'm just really excited. It would have been dope for both teams. I really do hate that the CIAA and the SIAC are in the same division for football. I really do. Because, again, when, my alma mater, Winston-Salem State, when they were making their runs, we were in the Atlantic region, which is not as tough a region. Obviously, they have some really good teams there, but it's not as tough a region for
that's the
football,
South.
but it is a very tough region for basketball. And so then, what they did was they brought CIAA to the toughest football region, but left them in the toughest basketball region. So, it's so again, I'm happy for all of the schools at the D2 level that are able to be successful. It can go out there and compete on the national level, because it's a tough thing to do. So whether that's WSSU a decade ago, or Virginia State, the times they've been able to do it, or Bowie State, the top of the CIAA has definitely been able to do that. I know Tuskegee had won some playoff games when they were pushing for the playoffs. And it would have been nice to see them get in, but obviously they got a little ways to climb, but not that far. So I think it's great this year, because I have been I have the SIAC has they've had their issues beating out of conference non-conference teams, non-conference
Right,
PWI teams, but I think in the
right.
last couple of years they've really raised the bar there, and I think the CIAA has been doing a better job of that as well. And I think it was really great for Fayetteville. Hopefully, they got a tall task for sure, but I think it's definitely great when we get multiple HBCUs in there. Hopefully, it'll work out to where Virginia Union will win their game, and then we'll have at least one of those teams from the SIAC and the
In the
CIAA
regional
and
final.
the CIAA, the CIAA into the regional championship. So it should be fun. But I'm excited for everybody getting a chance to participate in it.
Steven, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like HBCU teams should play 11 games in one season?
Uh, I don't know. That's my partner, my guy Chris. That's more of his thing. I'm not that in tune with it. I think it wouldn't hurt to have some variance there. I do like the championship game, though. I do like knowing who is the champion. But then again, sometimes that even isn't even when you're looking at playoffs. I still think out of all the teams that I've seen, and I saw pretty much all of the top teams in the CIAA. I still think Virginia Union probably was the best team. They just weren't able to get it done. But I don't know. I mean, I know Fort Valley was trying to get a game with Virginia Union, and I know Union decided that they were good where they are, and obviously they were good where they were. It would have been great to be able to get Fort Valley in there and Fayetteville State, but unfortunately, yeah, I think Fayetteville State winning the CIAA. I think their only two losses were to Union and Wingate, who are both in the field. I think that it worked out for them. So Chris could tell you more about that 11th game. I just feel like it's rough to go through the entire season without a bye too. I think it's really interesting how D2 is such a different football rules than anything else.
Animal.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, also on the CIAA, yeah, the CIAA South, man, they gotta figure out some way to get better. Like I said, it's they're because they're dragging the rest of the conference down. To be honest with you, almost they're dragging they could drag them down, but I think one thing Fayetteville had in its favor is again the Bowie states and Virginia states. Bowie States, Virginia States, and Winston-Salem State. Over the last decade, the CIAA has been able to win playoff games, and it's crazy. 2022 was a year where we had only one CIAA team in basketball in the region, and we got two football teams, which is pretty wild. But not to belabor too much on that, I think the CIAA got hurt last year, basketball wise, especially, and football too, sitting out that year. I know for sure. So I know they're looking for a bounce back in basketball. But yeah, it's I hope all of them do well. So we'll see.
Hey, I'm gonna slide this in real quick since we talking D2. What Langston doing? Because I haven't checked in a couple of weeks.
They had fallen off. They had lost a couple games, so I'm not sure exactly.
Oh God,
Exactly.
yeah, that Red River conference is a tough one in the AI. They basically murderers row down there.
Yeah, yeah, but like I said, and coming back to that again at Fayetteville and Fort Valley State, that's really tough because man, both of the coaches are really great guys. Just real quick, I wrote a story on Fayetteville. You guys can go check it out. It's on the website, but it's a really cool story, man. Their coach, Richard Hayes. He's the nephew of the great Bill Hayes from Winston-Salem State, North Carolina A&T. All those programs. And, he, a couple years back, once they started losing those championship games, I was doing some research and I found out that his uncle, back in the 80s, at WSSU, they went to the championship game 4 years in a row, winning the Southern Division, and every year they would lose. And then in 1987, they were able to break through and win. So it was a real cool moment yesterday. Like I know Coach Hayes probably hated every time he saw me talking about that, but it's so crazy that same situation happened with him yesterday, where they had been to the championship game 4 seasons in a row and finally got through on their fifth try. Um, so it's a pretty wild story, man, and just to see them win the championship in the manner that they did was pretty crazy because you're sitting out there at that game, and I've been to all of the championships that they've lost, and they get out there and they're able to to keep pace early. And they're not really a high scoring team. And you just wonder when are they going to run out of gas. But and they had some boneheaded plays down the stretch that made me think that they were going to find a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. But kudos to them, and I think it's pretty wild whenever you see a 43-yard field goal winning kick to win a game is it's tough at any level, but especially when you talk about D2 football and especially HBCU D2 football at that, for him to go through and have the confidence to put it in his kicker and to knock that down, man, that was like a storybook ending, man. It was pretty crazy to watch. Again, being able, just seeing them lose every year. I'm going through right now. Every year, every time I go to a championship game, I always take pictures of the winners, but I always try to sneak and take a couple pictures of the losers. And I try to do it. I try to do it in a way that is not like so super obvious, because obviously those young men or young women, depending on the sport, are very down. They put a lot into what they had into it and everything like that. But the reason that I do it is I try to make sure that in a couple years, or maybe the next year, those tears that are sorrow can be turned into tears of joy. So I think it was pretty cool to see that. And Fayetteville State collected a lot of those sorrow tears, and they had to go down that mountain as losers a lot of times, but losing the game, but not as losers. And it was great to see them come through and get the win.
Hey, one of the correlations that I always see with the SIAC and CIAA is that for a while, like y'all kept having that Bowie Fayetteville State matchup, and we kept having that Miles Albany State matchup, and then this year we get that outlier in Shawan, winning, and then this year Benedict just exploded into something amazing and dominated the conference. So two teams that we probably didn't start off the year thinking, because I 100% believe that we were going to see a Lane versus Albany State championship game this particular year. But it's just interesting how that works, and at least on our side, the team that's normally not there won this time for the SIAC. So that's always interesting to watch in those championship games.
Yeah,
Man, not just one in flying fashion.
All right, Coach Thomas, so you ain't got to rub it
Now,
in.
Coach Thomas did call it. He did say initially Benedict by 30. That's all I mean.
He actually called the cool rule.
But I called it as a fan, not as a coach. As a
What?
coach, I mean, logically, I'm thinking that I knew we was gonna win. Now, I ain't doubt the Tigers at all, but I figured it'd be a lot closer just because of who their head coach was at Tuskegee. And the reason why I say was is because I believe that was his last football game coaching.
Sure
Yeah, it
was.
is. It is, yeah.
So, which gonna also make the conference even more interesting with him being out.
Yeah,
He ain't too far. He just going behind the desk.
it's definitely the Aaron James era. Now there are whisperings. Now I ain't here to repeat all the whisperings, but there are whisperings that there are some people who like, hey, wait a minute, coach, you might need to run this back one more time. But um, we'll just see how that goes, because they have already officially announced Aaron James as the coach. I know that kind of went under the radar, and I think that was during the time we didn't have a SID at the time. But this is
Hey,
officially
Coach
stated,
Ruffin, a
Aaron James.
God fearing man, but man, I'm gonna tell y'all this. Back in 2014, I remember we traveled down another miles to play against them, and I remember at the time my head coach was James Woody, but you could just see the two just looking at each other. You could tell that I guess whatever kind of beef or whatever competition they was in when they was like coaching together at Tuskegee, you could just tell like he had it out for Woody.
Man, I can tell y'all a couple of stories about them too. I ain't gonna say nothing though.
Okay.
Woody is gonna
From
go down
from
in
my
history the
people.
most hated. Woody is gonna go down the most hated offensive coordinator in Tuskegee history. Okay, it's like,
But he
man,
put points on the board though.
What?
That's the whole thing.
Well, let me ask you: is hated in a good way or a bad way? Like hated because man, he's so good, or hated like, oh man, he was terrible. Like,
That
No,
one,
how,
that one, that one.
or the bad one?
the fan base hated Woody.
Oh wow.
Like it was when Cumberland went to Jackson State, it was like we hated to lose Cumberland, but everybody sighed a sigh of relief. All right, Woody gone. And,
Wow. Wow.
Oh my God, you just brought them memories back.
Dang.
yeah, I meant no, literally like I went to high school with his daughter, and literally like they couldn't sit in the stands because people would dog him out so bad. Like it was bad. Like he was one of
That's
those.
every coach. Come
He
on, that's every coach.
I
Let's not go there.
listen. I meant now toward the end they started doing it to Slater too, but it was worse with Woody. It was worse.
Man, look, I've heard my dad be called everything but a child of God. I just live with it now.
So I want to run off an interesting stat for us. All right. So Benedict has been making history, and I need them to make history again. I went back and I pulled the records to see every SIAC team who was undefeated and went to the playoffs. And of course, there's only
Albany State.
Albany State. And every time they've been a one and done team. Albany State is 3-14 in the NCAA Division II playoffs. The conference as a whole is 7-24. Three of those wins come from
Tuskegee.
Tuskegee. Tuskegee is 3-4 in the D2 playoffs for the few years that we've been in. Morehouse 0-1. They went in 2010. Fort Valley is 1-5. They got a win in the 1998 season. So we really looking for Benedict to come on strong. Like I don't expect y'all to beat us how y'all beat us yesterday, and don't go out and beat whoever y'all got to play.
Well, one thing I'll say is that I'm calling it now, and I have the right to change it if we do another spaces. I have the right to change. But I'm feeling like we're gonna see and I know Steve isn't here. I feel like we're gonna see a Winston Salem type run from Benedict. That's what I think. Honestly, think that I got a feeling now. I know Wingate because Wingate and Union, Wingate is just as good of a defensive team. But I honestly think that Benedict is about to make that run to like that Final Four team and represent, this region. I honestly think that.
Yeah, I think well the one big thing that they got is that they're number one, which means that they will be at home. They'll be at home for quite a bit if they keep winning. And so that's key. Um, I know the second year that when Winston actually actually made it to the D2 championship, I know that they were number one that season. I'm not quite sure about 2011 because that's the year before I started game day, and I was I missed a lot of that. So I'm not sure if they were number one that year. I think they were though. I think no. I think that year they weren't number one. I have to go back and look. And what happened with them is that year they got to the national semifinals, and let me see. I'm pulling this up as we speak. NCAA Division II football playoffs 2011. They went. If I'm not mistaken, they won their home games, and then they got to the national semis. Right. So this would be the Final Four, and they had to play a team from Michigan. And so they had to go all the way up to Michigan. I think it was Wayne State. But let me see. Let me check that. I think the one thing that for HBCUs a lot of times is, obviously the X's and O's, but some of the things that catch them in the playoffs, from what I've seen, a lot of times is going to environments that are the environments are just going to be different than they are at a game. And I know obviously at a regular game, and I know um, obviously the players play on the field, but just like, for one, there's not going to be a lot of fans for the most part. I think the years that WSSU hosted, I mean, they had a couple thousand. One, because the students are either out, and also because they don't get in free like they do, because the NCAA makes everybody pay, and then also it's cold. So that's when you're at home, and then when you're on the road, you're going to some of these places where it's a hostile environment. It might be, it's probably going to be somewhere at PWI in the middle of nowhere, and the atmosphere can be a little bit different. You know what I mean? So I think it'll be interesting. The coaching staff has to have them prepared for anything. I do. One thing I would, it'll be interesting to seeing how they make this run. If Benedict moving forward will play some more PWIs, because I think that's the one thing on their resume this year that they don't have. Not saying that you're gonna have to play PWIs at some point, right? And their whole schedule was HBCU this year. And I think it's good to be able to at least get prepared for somewhat of that type of an atmosphere that you're going to have, when you're a team that's going to the playoffs. So, I think it'll be very interesting. But again, they're at home. They're number one until they, until they get to the national championship, if all goes well. So I think that bodes well for them going forward. So, yeah.
D2.
Yeah.
Now we talked last week, and I told you. I mean, and I'm going back on yesterday's game, but we talked last week, and I told you about that quarterback. I told you about different ways that they could use him in the game, which yesterday they actually did. You know what I'm saying? They actually used him in other ways other than, just standing there slinging the rock. Talk about how you feel about his game yesterday.
I was totally impressed by him. I think he was their leading rusher yesterday. I
He
think he
was.
got like 101 yards, something like that. I think for me, I had underestimated Benedict's team speed, just totally. Um, I had heard a lot of talk about the fist, but seeing them in person is different. And I almost think that's going to be one of the things that's going to happen with Benedict. I think that's going to be like a benefit for them during the playoffs because you look at film and look at how they've dominated people. It's kind of easy to almost fall asleep on them. Um, so it's like I look at our defense, that screen pass that killed us all day yesterday. We had when I tell you clearly, nobody had seen that on film because there was not even the simple, like we never adjusted to it. We never picked up on those cues that hey, this is what happened. You hadn't gotten pressure on Phoenix all day, and all of a sudden, 7, 8 times that they run that screen pass, you threw there, you got him now. No, so I was disappointed in that, but then it also showed me just how the weapons that Benedict has, the looks that they can give you, man. So I was really impressed, and like you had told me about his speed. I think that with our quarterback, we had been able to like get to the edge. Benedict on defense, they're too fast. Like we could not get to that edge, and that's what we like to do with the running back number one, Taylor, and the quarterback. We like to run, but Benedict was just there. I was totally impressed with them just from top to bottom. I like that they use the tight ends, man. When people talk about how we lose to these PWIs in the playoffs, we lose in the trenches. I'm not concerned about Benedict losing to anybody in the trenches. Yes, they're gonna meet teams with the same, with more physicality than the teams in the SIAC have put up against them this year. But um, I think that because Benedict, they're not rattled because when Benedict went up and they went up 2 touchdowns and then we threw the bomb, I know a lot of folks said he pushed off. Um, Benedict was never rattled. They don't rattle. That was one of my points about them that they hadn't really been in a dog fight. I see why. They don't have to get in dog fights. So they use their tight ends really well, slipping those tight ends out to the flats. That killed us. They remind me a lot of that 2015 West Georgia team. You go back and you look at the tape and you say, hey, they have a real opportunity, and I'm 100% rooting for them. I'm gonna try to make a playoff game, especially if they get that Union game. I'm definitely going up to that one. But just hats off, and you called it. You called it. They manhandled us on both sides of the ball yesterday.
Hey, real quick, hey, I want to give a shout out to one of my former players. He played at Louisiana Monroe. Hey man, I don't know how many years you got left, but if you ever think about stepping down from D1 and go to D2, baby, Benedict is always looking for defensive end, especially because you 6'8". Hey, man, hit me up. Hit coach up, baby.
Man, you need to play basketball too, man. Listen, get that NBA money, man.
But nah, like last week, I just kind of knew, man. I'm not gonna lie, man. Look, when I went out there to Fort Valley, like Fort Valley made me a believer, like no other. And then, obviously the Albany State game was what it was. But man, when I looked at like every game that I've been to, like Benedict this year, them guys put up numbers, man. That scoreboard wouldn't stop. So I just know that it's definitely something special brewing, man. And that one and no mentality, man. That's different, man. That's real different.
So really quick, I have to ask this because it's great. We have Steven here, we got D2. Y'all are way more nuanced and knowledgeable about the history of the SIAC than me. I gotta ask this because I'm gonna be pushing this agenda a lot this week. Is this Benedict team one of the best SIAC teams in history? Because by stats, it looks like it to me. Like, are they like one of the best? Are they up there with like the Tuskegee teams and the Albany State teams? Like, are they up there with those teams?
Well, if you're gonna say SIAC history, I mean, you're gonna have to say you're gonna have to classify that by like time, because between FAMU when FAMU was running it, and then Tuskegee, and then some of the others, and then obviously Fort Valley is in Albany States. It's you might want to D2 could probably tell you, probably I would say in the last 20 years, maybe you would want to look at that. But it's, when you start talking about the CIAA and the SIC, man, these are leagues with a lot of history and a lot of, just a lot of history, including a lot of the teams that are currently D1. It's tough to put it. You got to put it in that perspective. But so I would just say that, like, it's, the HBCU history, especially those two leagues, are 100+ years. So it's a lot to say in that. But definitely, I mean, I feel like if they can go out and win, a couple playoff games and make a playoff run, it'd be hard to say that they weren't.
I think they will. I think they're gonna make a run. Like I say, man, it's different down there in the Met, man. Like the environment, the atmosphere, like it's different, man. And Steven, man, you gonna see, hopefully Benedict get to run into one of those CIAA teams so that we can crown ourselves the HBCU D2 national champions.
Man, listen, Jada Byers is different. If we get that matchup, I want that matchup so badly because Jada Byers is a different beast, man. Like Benedict has not played, in my opinion, a Jada Byers type player, nor has Benedict played a Wingate defense.
That Union offensive line is for real, man. I went to Benedict versus Savannah State, and I saw Union twice in person. Both of them have really good offensive lines, man, and both of them have a lot of running backs actually that can get it done. That would be a great matchup. Benedict would be the home team there, so they would have the home field advantage there. I think that would be a really great matchup. But yeah, like you said, that Jada Byers, he's the real deal. Like, like again, I watched Tariq Cohen his whole career. Like, that's really like him, and it's like a handful of guys that's right up there. And that offense, but really that offensive line that he got is grown men. Like, I'm talking about millennials. Like, I'm serious. Some of these, we in the Gen Z generation clearly, but some of these guys are damn near millennials. So it's it'll be a meeting of the minds on the lines for sure. I think for the weakness I've seen for Virginia Union is that if you make it to where they have to pass, it could be 50-50. I mean, there was a couple games where the Chowan game was, I saw them against Fayetteville State, and that was a 3-point game. Jada Byers had 3 touchdowns. He only rushed for 160 yards, and he had like 3 big runs. And the defense scored, and the quarterbacks only threw for 51 yards, and they still were able to win. So you got to stop Jada and then hope that the passing game is having a bad day on offense. And they got a kicker. They got a kicker too. Their kicker was a special teams player of the year. So they're both two complete teams. So, but again, Benedict would have the home field advantage in that situation too. So I think it would be cool.
Hey, Steven, I know last year during the playoff time, there was a lot of people who wanted that Bowie State and Albany State matchup.
Right.
I honestly didn't want it because I felt like that was just a bad matchup. Some teams are just bad matchups for teams. And I
Hmm.
felt like Bowie State was a bad matchup for Albany State, and I felt like Bowie State could win that easily. I'm a little more excited about the possibility of a Virginia Union and a Benedict
Yeah.
playing more so than I was last year. Now that home field advantage, I'm not sure. I did read a couple of things about that game falls on the high school state championship is played in Benedict Stadium.
Yeah,
Um,
it would be the weekend of Thanksgiving, I believe, too.
okay.
Yeah,
So
it would.
yeah, it'll be like, again, this is where when we get to we talk about D2s and we talk about fan bases and stuff like that. Like, this is where cultivating a fan base is very important, and I think that's why I think Coach Barry, just the times I've been around him at the media day sessions and things like that, I think he's been around long enough. He gets it. He gets it. And and I think I like what he said, going into the game, where it was like, we don't just need Benedict alumni here, like we need Columbia here. And it's a high and lofty goal, but it's really what you need to push for in a situation like that. Just to preach the significance of it. And but I think that would be a really good matchup. I think that would be a really good matchup. For sure. So again, Union has to beat Wingate, which is not going to be easy, even though they're going to be at home. But then we could potentially get that matchup, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if either one of them won, because they're both really good teams. Maybe Benedict might be a little bit more well-rounded offensively with the pass, just a bit more, but Union does have some playmakers on, in the passing game, and the quarterback can get out and run too. So, I would be excited about that matchup for sure. Um, yeah, I just think those are two really good programs, and like I said, hopefully if Union does their part, then we'll at least know that we got somebody playing into December, which will be really great.
Uh,
Like the thing with Wingate for either Union or Benedict is that I was looking at the stats and they're a really great run defense. I think I saw that they hold teams to 65 yards per game. I'm
Hmm.
like, that doesn't bode well for Union or Benedict because they're great running teams, and that run sets up anything that they do. So Wingate might play spoiler. Like they might be, I always use this example. They might be like the Orlando Magic and Dwight Howard that stopped us getting Kobe versus LeBron. Like they could be like the spoiler. I can
Yeah, I think that's a good point, but I think that Union, again, Jada Byers is, I mean, he's for real, and that offensive line is for real, and they're deep. And then they got a second running back who had like 10 touchdowns on the season, just kind of as a short down back. Like, they have a number of weapons, and I think them again hosting at home is going to be key and crucial, because a lot of times, again, you don't want to have to go to Wingate and play. You know what I mean? You don't want to have to go there, but you're going to be at home. I think Union, maybe, excuse me, maybe the best thing that could have happened for them in a potential playoff run is losing that game to Chuan, because you know because they looked like, I didn't think that anybody was going to beat them after they beat BSU. I was like, well, nobody's going to beat them, and then they lost to Chowan. So they've had a couple weeks to regroup with that, a couple weeks to get ready, and they're going to be locked in and dialed in. I would expect them to win, especially with the home field advantage. And then, like I said, I think we'll look forward to a real interesting game. And Fayetteville State against Delta State. God bless them. They're gonna have a nice trip. Fayetteville State is
yeah.
they have they have but again, it's one game. They do have their defensive line is really good. Their offensive line, solid. Their offense they do. I mean, just like yesterday, they do just enough to win. And I think it's really interesting too. You know, when we're looking at these leagues and we're looking at how they play. I think the coach Hayes said something that made a lot of sense to me, and I have to really look at. And a lot of the coaches in the CIAA, specifically in the Southern Division, I think I'm looking at now which coaches we're hiring as head coaches and what their expertise is. Because if I'm looking at the CIAA South, right, you got Richard Hayes, who was a former defensive coordinator. You got Adrian Jones at Shaw, he was a former defensive back, and he was a defensive guy. I think the head coach at St. Aug, believe it or not, he was a defensive guy. Livingstone, their coach is Sean Gilbert. Um, Winston-Salem State, their coach is Robert Massey, former NFL player and former defensive coordinator. Really, the only team in the South that has an offensive guy running the show is Johnson C. Smith. And, it showed, especially early in the year. I know Coach Coxon coached against them early in the season. They're a very offensive-minded team. But, one of the things that Coach Hayes said was like, you know, he's a defensive guy, so he's all about field position. And he had to be told, and from talking with his uncle, I think it was his uncle that told him, Coach Bill Hayes, that told him, hey, you got to take some chances down the field. So I think it's really interesting, and maybe Coach Coxum can speak to that a little bit, if he wants to, just about how, when you're picking a coach, how much their background comes into the style of play. Because if I look at the offenses in the CIAA South, man, they're not. They don't. They not only are they not very explosive, they don't really play to be explosive. Um, they play that type of a defensive game. Whereas I think some of the teams in the North, and I'd be interested to know about the coaches at to go through the coaches' bios in the SIAC and see how many of those guys are defensive guys too. 'Cause I think that's really interesting on how the way teams play. So I know that's kind of a tangent, but I thought that's something to talk about maybe in the off season, like the type of coach that you hire, what their offensive philosophy is going to look like, and are they willing to give themselves enough chances to not be predictable? Because sometimes I find, and I'm no football guru, but sometimes I find that the offenses are so predictable or so conservative that they really don't give themselves a chance to really break out. But yeah, I'll stop talking now.
Wait, I think, hold on, before we move on, I think for Benedict, like I think in the playoffs, I firmly believe that their quarterback is going to be the X factor, for him. I think that if he can, I think when you look at these run stop defenses, I think that dynamic that he has to his game, that aspect of he can run the ball, is going to definitely be beneficial to the team, productivity throughout the playoffs. Like I think again, he's going to be. I think he's about to ride. Like he's about to become. In my prediction, I think that he's about to really show up. Like he's about to the whole country about to take notice of that man's ability throughout these playoffs. Go ahead, Coach Tony.
Hey, fellas, again, appreciate you having me. Steve, I'm glad you posed that question to me, man, because um, I always get what's the best way to say it? I get pretty fired up when it comes to that topic of how you pick a coach, and quite honestly, I think there's way too much emphasis when people are picking a head coach. Way too much emphasis on um, you know their scheme and how many, if it's an offensive guy or how many points they put up, or a defensive guy or things like that, because there's so much stuff you do as a head coach that it's really hard. It takes a real special guy that's a head coach that can manage being a head coach and then still maintaining that his discipline of being a defensive guy or being a offensive guy. Um, you know, I felt before I got the head job here, I felt I was ready to be a head coach, 3 or 4 years ago. And And the biggest thing I heard, they go, I wasn't a coordinator. Um, the only coordinator I finally got, I was being a special teams guy, and we all know people they tend to look for offensive guys because they for that splash high, they look for that pop when it comes to that. And but the number one thing for a head coach is being able to lead and motivate, and be a leader of men, and then from there, picking a staff of men, coaches that are going to fill the gaps that you're missing. You're not surrounding yourself with guys who are just going to agree with everything you say. Yeah, you want like-minded, but you also don't want them to be just blindly sheep and following you, and just going with everything you say. The guys on my staff are guys that they know they can come to me at any given time and say, Coach, hey, we can't do that. I don't think we need to do that. Let's try this. And I continue to try to tell them and make sure they know, hey, I want your input and your feedback. Um, I haven't called a single play offensive, defensively in the last 2 years because I hired guys on my staff that, hey, that's your role. And I trust in your ability to do that. And I think just too much is put on that. And when you build your staff the right way around type of guys that can do those things. And my biggest thing is I focus on first guys that can be leaders and men as well on their sides of the ball in the position group, and then guys who I feel are experts in their field, so they can go out and do the best they and put their best foot forward and lead our guys the right way. Because it gets just thinking about it, man. I still, even though I'm very excited where I am now, and I'm a head coach, and finally get to show people that I knew what I could do, and build a program and be leaders, and be a leader for not only a football program but for a school. Um, there are some teams, there's some schools out there that I didn't even get a call, and back. And I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna mention names, but there were schools a few years ago, that were opening in the SIAC that I tried to get my name involved with and didn't get a call back. And things like that. And not just the SIAC, other and PWI jobs across the country. And I took that personal, because they didn't get a chance for me to show that, hey, I can go out there and lead a group of men the right way, because they were focusing on the wrong things. And some guys that they brought at these other places where they were 1 or 2 years and gone. Um, so I think the number one thing is focusing on guys who can lead, and then let those coaches, and once they're in this position, hire the guys that are going to make everybody strong, man. Like, it's like forming like Voltron, man. You get everybody together, and you're a tight unit. And I think that's why we were successful here in the 2 years that we did, because I brought in the right type of guys who were ready to grind in this particular situation to get us to be as successful as we've been in a short period of time.
Hey, Coach, real quick, I want to ask you this, just to sort of segue. I'd love to get your input on this because, when you see successful coaches and that are successful at their programs, you hear the chatter no matter what of, hey, are they going to stay? What's the next job? And, of course, you see it with Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, and you even seeing it with Coach Barry. Like, what is, like, as a coach, with you being a coach, like, is it automatically go to money? Or does it go to, hey, like, I want to stay and build upon this program that I've been at? Because that's something that I always think about, because I hear, like, oh, we got to go for the money. Like, this is a big opportunity. But it's like, you're building at this program, you're seeing it grow. You just going to leave? So I always sort of wonder about that.
Yeah, that's a good question, man. And for each guy is different. It all depends on what's in that guy's heart, what's in that guy's spirit. What is he in it for? There are some guys in coaching, and let's I know we're talking about coaching right now, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm putting a bad word on coaches, but there's some guys that in any profession, their sole thing is, I want to move up as quickly as I can, make as much money as I can, and okay, that's what you do. But in the coaching world, I think it needs, particularly in college coaching, we're dealing with young people, man, and we're the first line of defense and the first line of support for a lot of these young men. Let's face it. We all know where there's HBCUs or any, our football programs will be made of about 75, if not high percent of young black men. And, there's a lot of those guys that need that guidance, that support from us as coaches. But yeah, there's some guys that are looking to just try to move up to as fast as they possibly can to get that big job, whether it be a dream school of theirs or just go up and make those, multi-million-dollar deals. Um, I take pride in the fact that any coach, I've been coaching for almost 20 years now, really over 20 years now. And I didn't take a single job due to money. Um, and, and there are more times than not that I took a pay cut in order to what I felt was a job that was going to help me grow as a coach, help me get to where I wanted to be, which is be a head coach. So it's a lot of different things involved in it. It all depends on what's in that heart of that person. But my biggest thing has always been, what is the best opportunity for me at that particular time? I've never gone in and said, okay, I'm going to be at a place for 2 years and I'm going, or I'm going to be a place at 8 years and I'm going. I'm just trying to go and work my ass off and do the best thing I can for these kids. And by doing that, if I take care of these kids, if I do right by these kids, I'm going to get what's coming to me in the right way. And that's how I've always been. And that way, it's always been hard for me to leave. Anytime I've left places, it's been hard, even from high school, because I pride myself on bonding with the guys that I'm coaching and mentoring. And this coaching profession is volatile, man. Yeah, you want to sit there and be loyal and build a program, but they don't necessarily always want to be loyal to you.
Yep.
So it changes per individual person. But like I said, for me personally, I always look for, what's the goal of trying to build and mentor these young men to get them where they're going to be, and then what situation is going to help me to do that the best way.
Coach,
I've never made a decision, like I said, based off of money.
Coach, question for you. Okay, I know that you said earlier that you're in the ground builders of your program, like y'all building it up from the ground. Now, what if a program like Morehouse, for instance, like they just had a coaches opening up? What if a program like that approached you? I mean, they already had the facilities kind of in place. They already had the resources. So it's the stuff that you wouldn't have to go out and get yourself. You just, you kind of come into a better situation. How do you feel about those type of situations? Like, is that something like you would entertain? Not saying that you would entertain it, but like, let's just say if I'm a head coach somewhere and I see, okay, this school already has all the stuff that I'm seeking where I'm at. Is that something that you would potentially entertain?
It's one of those things, man. Like everything, you always have to, um, you know, yeah, they're interviewing you, but you have to interview them as well. Again, being this, taking the job here at Bluefield State, brand new program. I knew a little bit what I was getting into, starting it from scratch. But I went in with questions on my own. Okay, what's the support like? What's the how many coaches are going to be is going to be allotted to me on my staff to get this done? Here's what I think I need in order to get that done. So regardless, whatever program it is, and then if I continue to do the things right, and I continue to, again, my thing is, as long as I continue to take care of kids and put kids in the right position to be successful, get their degree, and go out and be the best men they can be. Someone may come calling for me one day. And my thing is, I think the beautiful thing with the situation being here at Bluefield State and building a program, I've seen things from a totally different angle that I did not know 2 years ago, because I've never been in a situation where, I had to order equipment. You go down to the equipment room and get what you need, or things there. I got to see because I've been literally from the ground up. So I really know what goes into building a program. So whether a program has some certain things or not, that's not always a selling point, because um, you can always build building. It doesn't take much to build building; it just take money and resources. But you got to have a group of people around you that want to see you thrive and want to see you grow and want to invest as much into the program as you and your coaches are going to do. So that has nothing to do with endowments and locker rooms and facilities. That's heart and soul among everybody else around that organization. So those are the things that I'm going to ask any other program, you know, if and when the opportunity comes to, someone else is looking at me and talking about being in the program. I'm going to look deeper than the shiny buildings, because all that takes is a check. You know what I mean? Um, and like I said, we beat some programs that have been around a long time, and we didn't have a locker room, and we didn't have a weight room. That was just blood and guts and guys believing in what we got going on. And the way we played games this year, we won a lot of games, nip and tuck, 3 minutes, 5 minutes left on the clock, and gutting it out. That's hard to do at any program that's been around forever. That has nothing, that has nothing to do with what the buildings look like. So it's all about not just, oh yeah, they got a great name, they got a great building, they got this. You got to look really deep. Is that AD going to be supporting you? Do they have support staffs around for the kids? Is that president and that the people in charge, are they behind? Do they really want to see a winning program, or do they just like the fact that you have a football? Or is the things that I need, what I think is important to winning? And if they provide those things, then that increases my interest level, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, two things, it's like, a lot of people, like Coach Prime was for real when he said, he'd be a fool and a liar not to listen, for sure. So, I think anybody's always going to be able to listen in their profession. But I think one thing I heard you say too, Coach, is you talked about, fundraising the money to build the locker room. Would you be able to give us a little bit of insight on how you did that? Because a lot of us, and I think D2 was talking about this the other day, like a lot of our programs just, they don't have the manpower resources, a lot of times the foresight to go out there and really take advantage and make and figure out how to get dollars that people have. So I'm just a little curious how you were able to get the funding for the locker room, if you don't mind giving us that for just a nugget real quick. Because again, I mean, all of our programs can use it. None of us are at the Taj Mahal.
Right. I'm nowhere near where I need to be, and I say I'm still a novice at it, and still trying to get a lot of it in. Particularly for our place, I connected with a former player from here who was just an unbelievable person, man. I mean, uh, he passed away, just this past 4th of July. Lived to be 100 years old. Um, we had so much in common, and he's from my home state of South Carolina. Um, he was in the army like I was, served in World War II, in France, the same place where my grandfather served. So that automatically was a connection, because I'm like, these are two black men serving in World War II in France at the same time. They had to cross paths. You know what I mean? So that was kind of a thing that kind of, connected us. We're both members of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. So we made a bond there, and just talking to him and the family. And I got on a Zoom call with him maybe a couple of months after being there, and we just connected. And his son is my fraternity brother as well. And we connected, and the family basically, got together and donated the money that we're going to name, get the locker room renovated, built, because not building a whole new building. It's a building we're already kind of just refitting and refurbishing for that. And we're going to name it after him. So that was a little bit different, but the mindset of it is, I think the biggest thing is just getting people. Is two things you have to do. I think you have to be very precise and let people know what they're giving their money for. You can't just go up and ask someone, "Hey, yeah, we want money. We're trying to get $400,000, or $200,000, or $30,000, wherever it is." Um, you know, that's you're going to need to give people more. So biggest thing that I try to focus on, I took my time and really broke down certain things, like and put it in nuggets that people can really wrap their heads around. So okay, you donate this. This is what it costs to outfit one of our players from head to toe, from practice gear, game gear, our uniforms, travel sweats, workout shoes, all that. Here's what it costs to outfit one player. So you could tell somebody, hey, you donate this amount of money, that's outfitting one player for an entire year. So now they can wrap their head around it. if you donate this amount of money, that's going to pay for, a nutrition bar for fruit. So they got the extra supplements they need, or this type of supplement for our guys, or this, you donate this particular dollar amount will pay for our weight room. When you give people that type of, specifics, now they can really wrap their heads around. Okay, I know exactly what this is going for. And then I think the other part is just, and for me personally, I'm a very passionate person. I'm a very um, I go all in on it, and I just be myself. I speak, when I speak to groups, I never have any notes. I speak from the heart, and I think the authenticity that people see and feel that, hey, this person is really here to give everything for these young men and for this program. I think that's stuff that people get around when they feel like someone's real and someone's not a salesman. Um, I don't like people say, "What you do to sell your program?" I don't like to say sell my program. I'm just telling you what we're about. So I think those two things are how I go about doing it, and I'm nowhere near where I need to be when it comes to that on the fundraiser. I still got a lot of work to do, but that's how I go about it.
Good stuff. Appreciate you for sharing that.
Anytime, man. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was amazing, Coach. I love that. I love this whole entire explanation.
Thank you, my man.
Yeah, Stephen, man, I definitely was on that. I get on those little rants from time to time about with our programs. I have been one of those ones who was critical of Tuskegee. I'm so glad that we finally decided to do some work to our field. I hated that we had to wait till we start losing games to say, hey, we need to upgrade. I mean, we've had a couple opportunities to do some things and we just fell flat. And one of the biggest things that I was hyping about in 2012 when we went down to play Alabama State in their brand new stadium, okay, we had talked about the stadium 2010. We started the exploration into D1. We go down there 2012. We beat Alabama State first game on the stadium. I mean, Alabama State built a nice facility. And one of the things that I was hyping on was after the Tuskegee faithful saw that, we go in, we beat this team. Our guys deserve better. And we should have launched one of the biggest giving campaigns for our athletic department as a whole, off the magistry, the excitement of that game alone. And part of fundraising is getting to that momentum. And I think we miss a lot of opportunities when the momentum is there to get funds. I even tweeted about giving to Benedict on Saturday because, hey, I was walking past Benedict Looms. I had a Tuskegee shirt on, and all of them were engaged. They were engaged, and they were happy, and I was excited for them. I mean, I was sad about the beatdown, but I was excited that they got a chance to experience this. But to continue to experience that, it's going to take commitment and to give. And I have a firm belief. I know a lot of Benedict's games was on HBCU lead.
League Pass
Yeah,
Plus.
lead pass plus. Like donate the price of a ticket to them. Like it's simple things that we can do to ensure that our programs can succeed. Like you watching it for free, hey, just go send them people a few dollars. I mean, I don't have a whole lot, but I do try to support the institutions, and not only my institution. When I see good things going on, because for so long the SIAC had got dragged down just being like this horrible football conference, and to see schools starting to invest, now we have to do our part to continue to get that kind of product on the field. And that's my little rant on that for the night.
As a donor, and as an alumni that pays dues every year, man, I can say this: like when I played football at Benedict, a lot of the stuff that you see that they have, like the stools and stuff, I know that we donated some bread to get the stools and stuff like that. Like it's been different things that they send us, and they ask like, "Hey, look, can we get up this amount to try and donate toward back to the school so that we can, try to upgrade stuff." And again, me personally, I'm looking at it like this, and I graduated 2017. I'm happy with all the stuff that I've been seeing from the school. Like I can actually, I mean, again, it may not even be my dollars. It may be dollars that was donated years ago that they just didn't use or whatever. But me looking at it, I can get behind whatever they doing because it's like, okay, I'm seeing that. All right, we got the weight room going because they was talking the weight room that they have now. They was talking about that weight room back when I was a freshman at Benedict, which was 13. So to see that, happen, and to see again the renovation, the updates and stuff that they've been doing around the campus and stuff like that, like it makes me happy as an alumni and as somebody that gives back to the school.
Man, 100%. Randall, I do want to go back on something that you said, man.
Yes.
When you asked, was this Benedict's team one of the best in SIAC history?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Out of the teams that's left in the conference, I'll say that. I can easily put them top 10 without even thinking hard about it. Easily top 10. Um, I- would I move them into my top 5? Um, I want to, but it's hard. You have and for my top team, it's like that 2001. I think it was the 2001 Albany State team where basically they shut out 8. Um, they had 8 shutouts that year. I don't think anybody got over 100 yards rushing on them the whole season. Um, but they went in and they fumbled the ball first round of the playoffs. Uh,
Wow.
they did that again. It was like I actually did a little piece about this on my page. The big showdown with them being undefeated and Hampton being Hampton being undefeated when Hampton was D2 in the playoffs, and they got each other, and both of them were undefeated, and Albany State fumbled the ball again. If Benedict wins first round of the playoff, they get in my top 5. They
Okay.
get in my top 5.
So let me ask. What's your list? So you said 2001 Albany State. What are the other teams that are on your list?
So it's gonna be that 2007, 2008 Tuskegee team was that 27 game win streak.
Mm.
Um, that Jakar Atkinson team, of course, we'll never know how they would have fared in the D2 playoffs because once again, when we play the Turkey Day Classic, we can't play in the playoffs because the
Mm.
playoffs start before. Um, so it's like one of those things where we'll never know, but you look at those teams like it was a blowout. None of those games were even close after halftime. Like that's when I was talking about missing that old Tuskegee where they were just going blowing everybody out before halftime. It's 40-0 at halftime. Um, so I, I have those teams, but I do have a spot for Benedict because there is a team that there's a spot that they can knock a Fort Valley team to 6 in my
Oh
opinion.
man.
There is a Fort Valley team that they can knock to 6.
Well, which one? Which one?
Matter
Which one?
of fact, hold on, I'm finna tell you right now because I made a list of these teams.
Okay.
It's that 1982 Fort Valley team. Now,
Oh
I
man.
go back now. I'm a student of history. I'm
Yeah.
a historian by trade, but that 1982 Fort Valley team, if I'm not mistaken, as a senior, they put 126 points on somebody.
Yeah, they did. I think so.
Yeah,
That was one of the Lomax Porter years for sure. Yeah.
yeah. So Benedict can get in at least tie for 5
Okay.
with that team.
How many games do they got to win to be top 3? Let's be honest, because again, a lot of the Tuskegee teams didn't play, so you won't know. But I mean, if you win, and they got a first round bye. If they win 2 playoff games, made it to the national semis, I gotta think they gotta skip some other people. I mean,
Now I agree with you. If they make it out of the region, they're top 1.
Like number
They're
one.
they're they're number 1. I mean,
Okay.
they have dominated the 3 teams in the conference. Okay, they dominated Albany State, they dominated Fort Valley, they dominated Tuskegee.
And
Okay,
Miles, and they got
and
Miles too. Although Miles was a different team.
so I what more can be said? Like, they've shown that they have the ability to dominate in the conference. Not like one of those years where they took a couple of L's in the conference. So they settle that question. If they go their first time, okay, I think back Tuskegee's first time in the Division II playoffs is 2014. It goes back to something Steven said earlier about students not being there. One of the things that happened that game is Coach Slater, there's an interview that you can pull up on YouTube. Coach Slater saying he got down there and there wasn't no students there at 9 o'clock in the morning. And he's like, wait, what is going on? Because nobody in the administration thought to say, hey, you know what, let's just buy a buck of tickets and give them to the students. It's just one of those things that didn't happen. And West Georgia was like a home game for them because they came. We were new to the playoffs. It was like, okay, what is this? The old alumni were kind of they were being rebellious because they, embraced the Turkey Day Classic, unlike some of the younger alums. Um, so it was like one of those games where Georgia had way more people at our stadium than we were there, and it was like one of those things where when we realized we could compete, we were in this dogfight. So the first 2 years we go to playoffs, we lose by 3 points. We lose by 3 points to West Georgia. We lose by 3 points to North Alabama. Then in 2015, we make that little run and we get to the regional final, and then we get bomb rushed by West Georgia, which ironically is the team that I say that Benedict reminds me of.
I like that. Now, of course, the Beautiful Valley alum. I would hate to see a Lomas Porter team, get out that, that top spot on your list. But I honestly think that we have to have that conversation because I think that in anything in sports, basketball, football, baseball, like we have a bias against what's new. Like to sort of like pay respect to the older ideations of greatness, and I feel like we have to have that conversation of what Benedict's doing because like they're dominating on defense. Like, and I honestly feel as if they have an amazing chance to really make a run. Now, like I said, what scares me is someone that really wants this for Benedict is if Wingate makes it out. Because I honestly think that Benedict can beat Union. It'll be a dogfight, probably the best team that they play since Albany. But Wingate is just as dominant of a defense as them. That might be like a 13-7, 7-0 game, like that.
Hey,
That's the one thing that scares me.
hey,
And
Randall, hold
Wingate is
on real
cl-
quick.
and
Hold
Wingate
on,
is
hold on,
close. It's
hold
close
on. Hey,
enough to
we
Benedict.
got we got the SIAC Defensive Player of the Year,
Okay.
Luke Danellis down there, man. Give him a mic.
Okay. Speaking of defense, we're talking about defense. Speaking of defense.
Oh, he's a dude, man. He's a guy.
If y'all play Wingate, y'all need to definitely make sure y'all got fans in the stands because they're not that far away from y'all. Don't have them having more fans than Benedict.
Oh man. And can I just say this before we bring them up, like how, like that, because that was something that we dealt with at Fort Valley, because 2017, SIAC championship, we made a big push. I know I did, like hey, like we need students. If this is the first year that this is a home game for the championship, and we're the first school hosting it, the stands got to be filled. And I know that was my domineering message. And I was trying to say, hey, ESPN is here. We know now that don't mean nothing. It was on ESPN3. That didn't mean nothing. But like, that support was needed. And we lost to Tuskegee. It was a very ugly game, but the fans were there. You know what I'm saying? And I saw the same thing with Benedict when I was able to watch that replay. So like I with that Tuskegee story, how does the administration not just automatically buy those tickets? I don't get it. Like, and I feel like at a certain point, some alum got to step in and say, oh, the administration ain't doing it. Bet I got it. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes some alum got to step in and do that.
Yeah, it was like one of those things where it was new.
Yeah, you
At
don't
that
know what you
time,
don't know.
yeah, at the time,
True.
we had just got a new president. Dr. Johnson was the new president coming in, and we just had it was like the high turnover thing. Like we were fumbling through ads. We had a lot of issues going on. But in hindsight, it's like okay, what we learned from that was actually we learned two hard lessons in the playoffs our first 2 years. After the first year, the debacle with West Georgia, and the next year, our AD asked, we go to North Alabama, and he asked North Alabama to move their band uh, from the visitor side to not
Wow.
interact. And so all the headlines read Tuskegee's AD wants to be segregated.
What?
So it was like a rough time. And so I hope that the Benedict administration is, going through and looking at it, and I hope they have that open line communications with teams who have hosted. Albany State has hosted. Obviously we hosted that one year, to have those conversations, within the conference, to say, hey, this is our advice, moving forward with that. So hopefully Benedict does everything right, because I think on the field they have a good product. And we have Chris, man. Chris, y'all show is over, and I'm so glad you made it so you can bless us.
What's going on?
What's up, Chris?
Not much. Just got off a lengthy show talking about this very topic, playoffs. What you
Playoffs.
playoffs? Talking playoffs? What do y'all want to know?
And everything, man. You got to give us the details, man. You the guy.
How on a scale of 1 to 10, how surprised are you that Fayetteville State is in the playoffs?
10. 10. I mean, Fayetteville State was interesting, and that was one of the topics when we got to Super Region 2. The numbers seem to kind of support um, maybe more Newberry getting in some categories. But I think if I was on the committee, which two people on the committee I think may have kind of swayed the committee as a whole, which is Anthony Bennett's on the committee, who is the AD for FSU, and Coach Parker as well at Virginia Union is also on the committee for this year.
Oh, I didn't know Coach Parker was on. Okay.
As far as I know, yeah, he is. But like, Virginia Union and Fayetteville State played a really close game, so I think that kind of matters to some degree. And Newberry lost to Limestone, so that was a pretty big reason why. I think it really came down to Newberry, Fayetteville State, and Fort Valley. And time and time again, we kind of talk about, if you end up on that 7 line at the last week of the season and you're only playing a 10-game schedule, you're probably not going to make it. And that happened last year and it happened this time. I think it also happened in 2014 when it was a 6-team playoff and Winston State didn't make it despite being 9-2 and having two very close losses. I think that they were the first team out that year too. So, it's just one of those things where
The beginning of sorrows.
yeah, well, yeah. No, not quite. Yeah, 2016. But nonetheless, I think it just came down to the committee probably looking at two teams for the South Atlantic and two teams for the CIAA this year. And so I was very surprised that they got in. Fayetteville State is just a team that they you just don't know what you're going to get out of their offense. The defense is stout, and I think the defense is going to give Delta State a very hard time, even though Delta is a very high-powered offense. I do think though that the offense is it's just a huge question mark, and they're just so young, especially at quarterback, that I'm not sure they understand the magnitude of what they're about to get into. It just scares me a bit. So yeah, Benedict, not a surprise at number one, and Virginia Union Wingate, not a surprise at 4 and 5. In a situation like that, as many of you have talked about, this is going to be a very hard fought game. There's no clear team that has an advantage. I think a lot of people think that VUU is just Jada Byers on offense when the quarterback, Jakari Grant, has quite a plethora of weapons at wide receiver. And I think, with Coach Parker having an offensive mind, he's probably going to do what he had to do with Valdosta, try to figure out what could possibly work against Wingate. Because it's going to be very hard for VUU to run the ball. Now, Wingate doesn't have a great offense either, and I think you saw that early in the season when they played Shaw and when they played Fayetteville State. Those were not high scoring games, and both those schools were had a chance to kind of upset them, but they just didn't have enough on offense to make it work. Whereas Virginia Union does. So that game to me, I think, is a 50-50 type of game, and I think it's going to be very, very physical. Um, and in those type of games, they're probably even on special teams. So maybe a slight advantage to Virginia Union there, but it's going to be a very good game to watch, I think. And I just like the fact that I think that the CIAA has the opportunity to get another win against a South Atlantic opponent in the playoffs. So that's kind of my thoughts. I think West Florida and Limestone. West Florida really they grossly underestimated Newberry last year. So I think going into the playoffs this year, I don't see them doing that this time. And I think that Limestone can score a lot of points, but Limestone just doesn't have a defense. So if they end up in a shootout, that's the kind of games that West Florida tends to win and like to be in. So I think West Florida certainly has the edge there. So I would like to see a matchup next week where it's Virginia Union and Benedict. So it'll be really interesting to see if that happens. Because that means basically that a HBCU is going to get to the regional final. But yeah, there's just a lot. There's just a lot to evaluate and look at. But yeah, that Fayetteville State getting in was definitely a little bit of a surprise, and I think was a surprise for virtually everybody.
So I have to ask this real quick. As a Fort Valley alum, we were all very disappointed when we lost to Savannah State, but it seemed as if like our hopes were alive after beating Albany State. So how realistic was it that Fort Valley could have gotten in the playoffs?
I think it was very realistic. I think the problem with Fort Valley is that they were just idle, and when you're idle like that, you're leaving your fate to other schools and other things to happen. And as people have heard me say time and time again, the CIAA and the SIAC playing a 10-game schedule doesn't do the second, the team that doesn't play in the championship but has playoff aspirations any justice. Because I think if Fort Valley had played the 11th game against a decent opponent, they would have been in the field. Now, I guess I don't have a ton of heartburn over Fort Valley not getting in because I think that the committee was going to put in Fort Valley or Fayetteville State at the 7 line. Um, so I guess for me, I don't have I just come from a different viewpoint, but I thought it was realistic, and I think that the numbers really kind of just changed slightly in Limestone's favor because they had the identical strength of schedule, and it just slightly changed by like 0.003 of a point this past weekend. So I thought it was realistic to think so because I thought they had a stronger resume. Um, but certainly the Fort Valley, the Savannah State loss really, really hurt here.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, because if you look at Fayetteville State, I think the thing they had, as bad as the CIAA South was, the two teams that they lost to were Wingate, who was in there, and then they also lost to Virginia Union by 3, and they're in there as well. So I think that Savannah State loss. If they didn't have that loss, I think that we're probably having a different conversation then.
Yeah.
Maybe, but like you said, being idle for that week didn't help.
Yeah, and other thing is that like Fayetteville State's strength of schedule was like a 476 or something like that. But after playing Chowan and Wingate winning, that just gave them a huge boost. So they end up with a strength of schedule over 500 in the last week of the season. Like that's how much of a difference it was in a particular situation like that.
Try as it might, the CIAA South could not bring them down. 'Twas the year of the ponies.
Chris, do you happen to know who's the SIC representative on that committee?
I don't, but I can look it up real quick.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you mentioned the possibility of a Benedict Virginia Union matchup. I had actually was saying earlier about how I'm actually more intrigued about this matchup than I would have been last year with the Albany State Bowie State matchup. Um, I just felt like those teams were just two totally different types of teams, and it just wasn't a matchup that I was. Yeah, I would have been okay to see it, but I wasn't just dying to see it like I would be with a Virginia Union and Benedict.
So, Eddie, so real quick, let me ask you this: as Chris is finding that information, like what type of teams do you think that that Albany State and Bowie are? Because when I look at the numbers, like Albany State was so dominant defensively last year, in the run game especially, but they defended the pass pretty well. You know what I'm saying? So, what type of teams were Albany and Bowie last year?
Well, when you look at Albany State stat, you also got to go back and look like I mean, the SIC had some old style offenses being run last year. Okay, you talking about? I think we had 4 or 5 teams that ran the ball 80% of the time. So you look at Savannah State last year. I think Steven used to talk about if Kentucky State throws, they attempt to pass the ball more than 5 times, they lose, if they complete a catch, they lose. It was like one of those things where I I don't know. Like their defense was really dominant last year, but it was also we were missing in this conference a lot of offensive flair from all the teams last year. And I just wasn't sure if Albany State just because anytime Albany State has to score to win, they can't do it.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, uh, they struggle. Like if they can't come out and just bully you around, then they kind of fall apart. And that's just kind of been their mo. They tried to throw it a little more this year, but that was up and down, and I think that was part of their woes this year that they couldn't because when they played Benedict, they had some opportunities. Just quarterback just couldn't get the ball there. Um, so I just don't think that Albany State could. I, I just didn't see them keeping up with that fast pace that because Bowie could score on anybody. You look at those Bowie offenses. I just felt like, hey, no, I didn't
And
want to
they were
see that.
experienced too. Like Bowie had playoff experience. You know what I mean? Like that last year was. I mean, they've been to the playoffs every year since 2015, other than I think 2016. So they just playoff ball. It's still football, but it's different. And Bowie had that experience where Virginia Union doesn't have that experience too. And I think them and Benedict are both kind of coming into that. It's going to be the first rodeo for both of them if they play each other. So I think that's one other advantage that I would have given Bowie over Albany State heading into last year too.
I would want to throw out there though that when you talk about that experience, that was experience at the coaching level
Right.
because
Right.
the executing part that Bowie he kind of had a cadence that if you had a mostly new team that had not been into the playoffs, they could kind of hang with teams, but they couldn't get over the hump. So then the second year of
I
like
think Jerome. I think Jerome Johnson in his first.
I think we lost Steven there.
Oh, my bad. My bad. I was leaving my Wi-Fi connection. I'll say, yeah, definitely the coaching staff for sure. I know in 2019 they won the CIAA, and then they lost in the first round. But I think even that experience was experience, right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
they knew what it felt like to, okay, not we've gone through winning going through the regular season as champs, and then going through the regular season undefeated, and we know that it feels like to lose in a playoff game, and we know so when we get there, the stage like it was ready for it, and I don't think Albany State would have had that. I'm not saying that they wouldn't have had it, but I mean they just didn't have the history to show that. I mean, and I think that would have been an edge for them last year. But yeah, I think both the teams this year, Benedict and Virginia Union, it's new to both of them. So I think that's probably something a little bit more even.
So I just want to throw out there real quick. The two individuals that so for the committee selection, it's 8 members, two from each conference, and the two from the SIAC is the head coaches at Albany State and Tuskegee.
Oh,
That
Okay,
makes
that's
cool,
sense.
cool.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. I mean, both of them have been to the playoffs, so that makes sense.
Yeah, man. I going back to Benedict, this 11-0. I was, I told y'all earlier I had looked at those records, and every time Albany State goes into that playoffs undefeated, they fumble the ball. So I'm looking forward to Benedict making some history. They get a week to kind of see things out. I'm pulling for Junior Union this week, and that's just how it's gonna be. Next week, if they win, I'm not gonna be pulling for them. And then I'm also pulling for Fayetteville State uh, this weekend. So
if Fayetteville State knocks off Delta State, man, whoever win, if and we get the Virginia Union, and we get the Virginia Union Benedict, I mean that's a much easier path for whoever would win that game. So yeah,
That's
it's
that's right. I just don't. I know this is science based, but I honestly, after what I saw yesterday, I have no faith that Fayetteville State will beat Delta State when they can score that well. If they were scared, if we were scared, they were gonna lose to Chowan because I honestly was scared. So I have no faith.
Oh no, I feel you. I mean, hell, I'm not a Bronco, but I was scared too. I was like, man, they really about, they're I was just like, they're really about to lose this game, but I had to keep shooting as if they were gonna win it. And man, that was man, that was a hell of a feeling, man. It was like, it wasn't that much different than the feeling I felt when the kicker kicked in that 2015 CIAA championship game for Winston-Salem State, man. Just again, seeing them. But I think, one thing you can't count for Fayetteville State, man, is just their tenacity. Again, to go to a game every year and and go through the entire season every year and know that people are waiting for you to fall flat on your face. And you finally got over that hump. I mean, I got to think that they're going to play loose. And I don't know. I think if their defense, their defensive back, that cornerback, like he's a legit shutdown corner. Like, you know what I mean? Barnes Brown. He's a legit shutdown corner. If he was a little bit bigger, I would say he was probably a better prospect than. Well, he's been, I guess, more productive at least on the pass defense side than Williams was. And they've got some. If they can make their defense and special teams play as well as they played on Saturday, I think you gotta give them a shot. But again, they're gonna need the balls to bounce their way and a lot to go their way, and I don't know that it's gonna happen. But I think it's a tall task for sure.
Chris, I want to ask you, may know how do the West Georgia people feel? Like, did y'all talk about that on your show tonight at all? About
Um, no, we didn't really talk a lot about West Georgia. A 9-2. 9-2 West Georgia is kind of, an 8-2 West Georgia is just going to be kind of in the mix with all of those other schools, and West Georgia did lose to Mississippi College, and they played Morehouse. That really didn't help their strength of schedule at all, and we really, like I said, we really didn't talk about it very much, but they certainly had a case as well to get in. But I think one of the things that kind of like made a difference here was the fact that Fayetteville State played 9 games, and West Georgia I'm sorry, they played 11 games, and West Georgia only played 10. So that kind of makes a little.
Supporting his theory. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And the strength of schedule for West Georgia was a little less than the other teams: Fort Valley, Limestone, Fayetteville, and Newberry. So they were kind of behind those four teams because of the strength of schedule and playing less games. I would just only say that if there's a team that has a gripe with not getting into the playoffs, it's probably Newberry, because them and they Newberry beat Wingate, whereas Fayetteville State did not. So that kind of matters. But otherwise, the resumes are nearly identical. Fayetteville State has some pluses over Newberry. Newberry has some pluses over Fayetteville State.
Chris, why no auto bid? Why is the resistance to an auto bid?
The NCAA has a rule that there's a pretty high number of teams, schools in a division that has to play a sport before you have an auto bid. So, um, in Division Two, I mean, there's a lot of schools, and the number of schools that play football doesn't meet that threshold for the auto bid. I think it's like something like 60-70% of the schools in the division have to play, and Division II football is like 163 schools, and there are a lot of conferences that sponsor other sports that do not sponsor football. I could think of like conferences out west, like the California one, and Peach Belt, so on and so forth.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Yeah. My bad. I had phone phone died. All right. We're gonna continue to get it right. Whether it's like our fourth time doing it, we're gonna
Yeah,
get it right this
it's all
time.
good, man. It's all good.
Yeah, yeah. But definitely appreciate that insight, Chris. I think the last time I heard, the last thing I heard was about about that West Georgia, and I think you went on to talk about like the automatic bid into the playoffs. So good stuff. It is 9:20. It's 9:30. I am dog tired. So I'm gonna let y'all go down the list, get whatever y'all need to get off the chest. Once again, congratulations to Benedict. Um, I'm not celebrating your championship with you. I'll celebrate a playoff win with you. But I'm really happy for the direction of your program. Give, and if y'all know somebody, tell them to put that donation link on their athletic website, so I won't have to leave off the athletic page to go to the school web page to give. Make that a little bit easy on you, boy. But y'all go ahead and give y'all thoughts.
Well, we down to three teams, man. Three HBCU teams. So go HBCU.
Hey, most definitely. I want to say first and foremost, congratulations to Benedict. I got a lot of love for Benedict. A lot of people down there, and y'all deserve it. You know what I'm saying? And I know that Benedict's gonna represent the SIAC well. And of course, I'm rooting for Union. Big fan of Jada Byers, and also Fayetteville State to prove me wrong against Delta State. But of course, always make sure to follow HBCU Pulse. Make sure to watch our channel on HBC Lead Pass Plus channel 201. And we got a lot of good coverage coming. I appreciate y'all for being a part of this, especially Steven and Ferg, man. I really appreciate y'all because y'all brought a lot of perspective.
Hey man, that's what the Rams do. We enter to learn, depart to serve. But
Right. We love to see it.
Nah, yeah, appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk. Enjoy you guys doing this space. Like I said, I've been doing the CIAA for a while, so real shout out to D2 for making this for the SIAC. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always rooting for the underdog. So in the global sense, that's to the HBCUs, and then within the HBCUs, that's always the D2s and the smaller schools. So whenever we get a chance to do that, man, I love to highlight it and everything like that. So, definitely keep this going, keep this energy going. And, man, because the SIC basketball, that y'all got to figure out how to get the energy behind the basketball too, man. Y'all got some really good teams on the men's and women's side. So, I
Right.
know Chris will probably run when I start talking basketball, but, I got a chance to see the SIC basketball tournament the last 2 times they've had it, and really impressed with the level of basketball, man. It's just like, down south, man, y'all gotta make it a little bit more effort to get people excited about ball. But I love it anywhere they go. So I'm rooting for whatever HBCU team can go the furthest. And I missed the 2012 boat in Alabama, so maybe I'll get a chance to go check out Alabama this year in December, as long as it's not on the same weekend as Celebration Ball. Because
Yeah.
Chris or Coach, anything else y'all want to throw out there?
Hey, I just want to say, hey, I just want to thank you guys and appreciate you always showing us love, and giving us a shout out in Bluefield State, and noticing the work we're putting in. It really means a lot. We got a lot of great kids that took this leap of faith with us to jump on this brand new program and get it going, and a lot of my coaches and everything. So, on behalf of them and myself, we appreciate all the love, all the support that you guys give us, man. And again, means a lot.
No problem. Once again, man, appreciate everybody for coming out. Continue to like, share, retweet all the stuff that come out with HBCU Plus, all the stuff HBCU Game Day. Chris writes great articles. He writes for HBCU Game Day and D2 Football, man. And let's just support. We're all that we have, okay? And we have to stick together. It's good, hey. We talk a lot of trash amongst ourselves, but it's us against the rest of them out there. So 100%, I got my Benedict shirt. So I will be rocking my Benedict undefeated shirt.
Hey,
Not
real
this
quick,
weekend.
can I ask this D2? Hey,
Go ahead.
where can I get that shirt? Where can I get it? Can someone point me to that?
Which one, the undefeated one or the one
Both
that I
of
posted?
them. I need the championship one and the undefeated one. I'm rocking that.
I'm
Where can I
gonna
get it?
say this. I don't know if the people that I bought my shirt from was street vendors. I don't know if them. I mean, they had them right after the game was over, so I don't even know if they even like. I don't know. They may not have no more copies of
Okay,
those.
got you.
But I'm gonna say this though. Probably in the next couple of days, I would say our bookstore at Benedict should have some stuff in there. If anything, the worst case scenario.
Okay, yeah, because if so, I'm definitely copping that because I do not know what my Fort Valley 2016 shirt is, and I'm heard about that, so I'm a guard the Benedict one with my life when I get that.
Hey, down there, I hope I don't botch your name up. Zakia, I read what you said. You had a plate for me. Listen, that playoff game, I'm coming, and I'm coming for my plate. I really appreciate the Benedict people, man. When I was walking, because where I parked, um, I had to walk through like where there was a lot of Benedict fans again. Like they was just having a good time. They was like, "Oh, do you want to be a Benedict fan now?" I'm like, "Listen, I always support Benedict." So I showed them my page or whatever. They were like, "Oh yeah." So, they invited me up, gave me some fish because that fish smelled good. I wanted to ask, but I was like, you know what? Let me not even ask. But I really had a good time in Columbia. Like that was a good atmosphere. And back to the closing statements, man. Like just appreciate everybody for rocking with us. and we're gonna keep on doing it. And we're gonna have some spaces with SIAC basketball coming up. Shout out to Tuskegee and our women's and men's. We're both 2-0.
Miles College, they run the conference in that, right? For the boys, right?
Now
Morehouse,
now you know,
Morehouse, good at basketball now. Don't sleep with Morehouse.
No,
and
Morehouse
you
good. I
can't
know,
sleep
I
on
know,
Benedict.
I
Man,
know, I know. Benedict had they old head coach from when I was in school who used to run the tables. Is at Miles. He's the head coach at Miles now. So I know that Miles got to have a decent squad. I mean, I haven't really been keeping up with that, but I mean now I am. So yeah.
Yeah, because what I think Benedict has won like the Commissioner's Cup on the women's and men's side like 2 or 3 years in a row. And basketball has been like one of the things that has kept them in it. So if they are decent this year, I look for them to get that Commissioner's Cup again. I also want to shout out Spring Hill. Spring Hill is our Shawan. They just don't play football. They have won their fourth straight SIAC women's volleyball SIAC championship. I think they have gone 3 years without even losing a set to any team in the SIAC. So it has been pure dominance by them. Their coach actually, I had reached out to her. So as we continue to do this and keep this going, we'll explore some more possibilities. But I want y'all to have a safe week. Enjoy yourself, and we'll be tweeting out some stuff the rest of this week. So y'all have a good rest of y'all night.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are here. Yeah, man. Great space. This was amazing. We had an all-star cast. I don't think y'all really understand that. We had an all-star cast. We had D2 HBCU football guy that hosted the space. We had Stephen Gaither, the founder of HBCU Game Day. All right. We had D2KFerg, who does a lot of great stuff with HBCU Game Day, as well as he's super knowledgeable about, Division II football, and he had a lot of great perspective. Of course, we had Coach Thomas repping Benedict College out here. That was crazy, man. And then, of course, we had Coach Cox, who is the coach of Bluefield State University. Bluefield is building out their football program. They're doing an amazing job. They played a couple of SIAC institutions. I believe they beat Central State, but they played Fort Valley. Had us a little bit nervous because I watched that game live that Saturday a few weeks ago. So they're going to be amazing, and I would love to have them in the SIAC, possibly, maybe in the West or the East. But I'm pretty sure they're going to get into the CIAA, and they're going to make some noise. So a very big, super all-star lineup. I didn't expect that. I was super excited. I got a lot of my questions answered. So make sure that you all check that out. Make sure you support HBCU Game Day. Make sure you support D2KFerg. Make sure you support Coach Thomas and everybody on the space. Bluefield, D2 HBCU football guy. But support us as well. Make sure to follow HBCU Pulse on Instagram and also here on YouTube at HBCU Pulse. Also, make sure to follow us on Twitter, the HBCU Pulse, and TikTok, the HBCU Pulse. Read our articles on hbcupulse.com, and also check out HBCU Pulse Radio. We post it up weekly here on YouTube. We're going to be taking Thanksgiving off. I'm pretty sure we might do a Twitter Spaces next week, and maybe the week after that, I'm pretty sure. But I know that Thanksgiving, I'm taking a break. Okay, so we watch some football. We might do some coverage of, the Benedict game when they finally do play against either Wingate or Union. But we're taking a break for Thanksgiving. So please, just be cognizant of that if you don't see anything from us. But overall, man, I just want to just say this because I wasn't able to give my full take at the beginning because we had some technical difficulties. But I want to say this. So, we put up the video and, you have Benedict, Virginia Union, and Fayetteville State that are in the playoffs. You have Benedict that has a first round bye. They're playing the week of Thanksgiving. You have Virginia Union playing Wingate University, and you have Fayetteville State playing Delta State. We talked about it in the Twitter Spaces, and I'm going to go really in depth on it if you listen to HBCU Pulse Radio on this week. Virginia Union versus Wingate. Wingate is 9-2 on the year. They beat Shaw, And they beat Fayetteville State to start the season, and they beat 22 ranked Lenore Rhine on October the 29th. And Lenore Ryan didn't make the tournament this year. They hold opponents to 10.9 points per game, 68 yards rushing, 144 yards passing, and they've allowed only 8 passing touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns, and they're very similar to Benedict as far as those defensive stats. They're one of the best defensive teams in Division II. And Jada Byers versus that defense is going to be interesting. They could very well play spoiler to a dream matchup of us seeing Jada Byers and his Virginia Union team play Benedict and Eric Phoenix and Noah Zaire Scotland and that dominant, just offense and defense, that well-rounded team that Benedict has. And I always say this when I do stuff, they could be the Dwight Howard and Orlando Magic that stopped Cleveland from making it to the finals when we could have seen realistically a Kobe versus LeBron finals. They could play spoiler just like that. So that's going to be a matchup you have to watch because Jada Byers is, I believe, a generational running back. I honestly feel like that man is like our generation Shannon Sharp. So y'all need to really be on the lookout for that. But I'm just not, I don't know. I honestly do not know. So I'd really be on the lookout for that. Watch that game. We'll see what happens, and we'll see where that game is streamed. Most likely, CIAA will pick that one up. Now, Fayetteville State versus Delta State, I am not confident because they did not play Chowan well at all. When I was doing the pregame on HBCU Pulse Radio on this weekend, I was talking about how Fayetteville State has such a dominant defense. I named some of their defensive players that were doing amazing, and they allowed Chowan to get 28 points on them, and Chowan led for the most part of that game. And Rashad McKee, who I knew he would do this, he moved the ball down the field as he pleased, but he was not able to get his team in the end zone. Like all of their touchdowns were rushing touchdowns. So that was really what eluded Fayetteville State, but also what kept them in the game because the quarterback couldn't connect. But when you go up against a Delta State team that's 10-1 on the year, they beat Kentucky State, they beat D1 Mississippi Valley State University, they beat number 6 ranked West Florida, number 13 ranked Valdosta, who sucked this year, and number 15 West Georgia, who's also in the playoffs. They have a high-powered offense. They average 221 yards per game in rushing, 256 passing yards per game, and they scored 33 rushing touchdowns and 23 passing touchdowns. They can give it to you in the air. They can give it to you in the run game. And what I saw with Fayetteville State against a Chowan team that beat Bowie and Virginia Union and had a really good quarterback in Rashad McKee, and they had 2 quarterbacks along with Rashad McKee that passed for over 200 yards on that secondary. I just don't know. I mean, I'd be happy if they were to beat Delta State. It'd be a great upset, and I would love to see Fayetteville State versus whoever makes it out of a possible Virginia Union versus Benedict situation and an HBCU will represent Super Region 2. I would love that, but I just do not have the faith that the team that I saw on yesterday on Aspire TV in the CIAA championship game will get us over the hump and get Fayetteville State there. I just have no faith in that. And we'll talk more about that on HBCU Pulse Radio. But that's just a little bit of a preview. And I'm sorry I'm talking so long right now because I know we got to go on and go. But I didn't get a chance to say that at the beginning. So I'm really excited to possibly see Benedict versus Virginia Union. We do not have the Pioneer Bowl anymore. CIAA teams, like the best teams, don't play our best teams often. We had Elizabeth City versus Benedict, and that's cool and all, but I would have rather have seen Benedict versus, Union or Bowie versus Benedict, or even though I understand what D2 is saying, but I think it would have been cool to see Albany State have played Bowie, because if you look at how Albany State played Jeremy Musa and FAMU, and it was a 23-13 game, I think that, Coach Gabe Gardena could have cooked up something that would have made that game competitive, even if Bowie won, So I think that, we have to really think about that. But in general, I love these conversations because I love my conference. I love Fort Valley State University with HBCU Pulse. We don't often get the opportunity to really spotlight and cover these D2 institutions because, the D1 HBCUs and the bigger HBCUs like FAMU and North Carolina A&T